And welcome into the Tuesday edition of Robby and Rexrode. I'm Joe Rexrode. Robby Stanley is in Disney World. And Big Joe.
Joe Rexrode, what's happening, man?
Big Joe Dubin is in studio. Look at this guy. Legend. A legend.
Some kind of legend.
The wholesaling studios powered by RumbleOn.com.
Where do you get that in this morning?
That's right. You like that?
I love it. Good job
Work
for you.
that in context. See?
It's great seeing you at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So
quite a vision, right?
So Ryan Porth, the program director, texted me last week that Robby, he said, would I fill in that somebody's out? He didn't say who was out. I'm like, please be Rexrode. Please be Rexrode. And then it's Robby. So I found out Robby last week's going to Disney World.
That's tough for you,
His
man.
mom goes like every other week. So Robby's going down there, family vacation. So he said, come over and fill in. So it's today and tomorrow. You're stuck with me.
Yeah.
So I apologize.
That's 8 hours of programming that we're probably going to go in like the Radio Hall of Fame. I'm just guessing. I don't want to be too cocky about it.
Well, think about this. If you go from here to Panama City, it's 8 hours. So 4 hours today. So we're like driving to Montgomery, Alabama. We're going to spend the night. And then tomorrow morning we'll get up and we'll head on down to Panama City.
Okay.
You ever spent the night in Montgomery, Alabama?
I don't think so.
Yeah, well.
How is that?
You haven't missed anything.
Yeah.
So we'll just stay outside the city and we'll just cruise down tomorrow morning into Panama City. But no, I'm looking forward to it. This is kind of a deja vu for me. I've been here.
Yeah.
I was here from 2011 to 2015 with our good friend Gregory Pogue, and then over the TV part now. So it's good to come back here and hang out for a few hours and then light the world on fire.
And by the way, you have a relatively new gig. How long have you been at Main Street?
July 1st.
July 1st. Okay, so we're in our second month here, about to hit month 3. How's it going?
Fantastic. So I was at Channel 4 for 6 years and a couple of months, and I'll get into it eventually about what happened. It wasn't pretty towards the end.
Oh, you're going to get into it in the next couple of days? Oh, well, we might have to carve out some segments just for that.
We can get into it here. So it's going great. I've been writing for them for 2 years, and I was getting more compliments on my writing than anything I did on TV. And I was like, I'm kind of seeing a trend here. And next thing you know, it worked out. And then thank the good Lord above, I've been there for 6 weeks. And Main Street, Nashville, they own 13 newspapers, 15 websites, and they cover all of Middle Tennessee. And as you well know, Joe Rexrode, I tell people all the time, the printed word is as powerful today as it was 2,000 years ago. Just there was a certain thing in town that people were happy how the paper was going, and we're not going to name names. Or Tennessean. And so, but the neighborhoods are still, they want news. People want news. I mean, you've been a writer your whole life. You understand that. I mean, so you put good content out there, and then people come and they read it, and it goes from there. It's a simple solution.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I worked at the Tennessee. I worked in that company for a long time. I have a lot of friends, and, so I'm very sympathetic to people who work there.
Yeah.
Because, it's
not
out
their
of their
fault.
control. Yeah, and there's still people who do great work there, but it has been tough. Obviously, I mean, you go back to, I'm old enough to remember when it was basically printing money, do whatever you want, and covering things fully. Covering everything. You look back to then versus now and how stretched thin it is. It's brutal, but it's great to see. You've got to have. Other organizations coming up, and this has been a really nice development, I think, for the people around here, Main Street, and there's been others too in other communities as well. And look, it's.
And I'm not going to, you got friends who work there. Mike Organ's one of my best friends.
But we should rip him.
We should.
We should actually have him on and rip him.
And I love Tom Krager, and I love these guys that cover. So it's not their fault, and it's not on them as far as content goes. And it's way above their head, and so they do the best job they can under the circumstances. And I think they do a great job. It's just that it's a changing world. And the digital world, you got your phone. You could find out what news you want, what news you like on your phone within seconds. But somebody is the word we all use in TV, somebody has to feed the beast. You have to feed the beast with content, and you try to make it different and interesting, and you'll be fine with it.
Yeah, and it's and then there's just the subscription world, of course, which I jumped into a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
At the Athletic. There's
great content.
Yeah, there's and it's a good site, and there's a lot of those too. But you're also you've got, and now the Tennessean and a lot of these places have kind of gone to that, right?
Yeah.
ESPN now, more of their content is which is I think it's a good model. Also, though, you can't ask people to have like 17 subscriptions. Some people can handle that.
Right, you're right.
But,
Well, what was eye-opening last year during the pandemic was when the Titans restricted access, rightfully so because of what was going on. But every day, Mike Keith and Amy Wells would do a Facebook update. And then I'm watching this, and it'd be 30 minutes, and it was all the information you needed. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to sit around to 6:20 for a 10-second soundbite when I'm seeing this on my phone, on Facebook, and all that good content right there. And then we used to be able to do breakout stories on guys, making the team, like the sergeant, the running back. I heard you and Mark talking about him yesterday. Guys like that, you could go out and you do little breakout. You can't do that anymore because you can't get the time with the kid and see what he's from. And that was all kind of taken away from you now. So it's an ever-changing landscape. You have to adapt. And so people are adapting.
Yeah, well, in television news in particular, in sports, and I've heard it for years for you folks and who've been on that side of things. You get the time squeezed down. And then, if access isn't good, then it's very
What do you have then? I mean, I was telling Michelle before we started, when I started Channel 4, I'd have 5 minutes at 10 o'clock. Then it became 4. Then it became 2. Then it became 90 seconds. Then it became, oh, hey, weather went long. I'm sorry. And then some days they forgot me in the rundown. And I'd just sit out there. I was like, what am I doing here? I'm stealing. I should wear a mask on TV. I'm stealing money from these people. But you have to adapt. You've got to do things differently. And then so the digital world has come up, and then it's been fun. You create your own content, good content, and people will watch it.
Yeah, no doubt. So speaking of good content, I got to give compliment of the day here to someone who I like to give, a little crap to here and there. You actually do too. I mean, on Twitter, you're merciless with a lot of people, but I'd say that your trolling of Jared Stillman is quite special.
Yes, it's been epic for years now.
Yeah, it has been. And we go at it, Jared and I, and Jared and other people. Look, it obviously very sad this weekend, losing Floyd Reese, and I want to get your thoughts on Floyd. I know you've got some great Floyd stories. I will say, and I don't know if you were able to listen to Jared much yesterday, 2 to 6. It was a really, really good show, and it was a hard show at times to listen to because his emotion was raw for 4 straight hours.
Right.
Floyd was more than a radio partner to Jared. He was a mentor to him, and he said it on the air. Kind of like another father and another brother, and it was very personal to Jared, and that came through, and they put together really an amazing show. So full credit to Jared, Caroline, Ian, and that show. And we have some clips too. Actually, Nick Saban, one of the people who came on. Pete Carroll came on. We'll do that next. But let's listen to Nick Saban on Floyd Reese. That was Nick Saban yesterday on Stillman and Company talking about Floyd Reese. And for people who don't know, Nick Saban left Michigan State in '88. He was D coordinator to be DB's coach with the Houston Oilers. Floyd at that time was still coaching.
Right.
You're talking about going back, just like Belichick and Floyd go back to went back to the 70s and the Detroit Lions. So first of all, look, that's classy of Nick Saban, and of course he has gone on their show many times. because he and Floyd had such a close relationship. So, Joe, your thoughts on Floyd and your history with Floyd?
Well, I think I knew Floyd in a different way because I didn't really know him when the Oilers came here in the mid-'90s, and I got to know him after that. And the fact is everybody liked him. I mean, it was crazy. Everybody liked – usually with people like, hey, this and that. But everybody liked him, and he was fantastic. And you go to the Combine, and, he did not have – at the Combine, he's surrounded by all the NFL coaches, all the GMs. So he could have easily, like, hey, I'm going to put the Nashville guys aside, you radio, TV guys. I'm not going to – he spent more time with us than he did with the GMs and NFL coach and helping us out and asking questions. So he didn't have to do that. And then so for him to do that and help us in TV, I came over one day when Lawan was going to hold out in 2018, I think it was. And I sit out there in the lobby. I interviewed Floyd for a 5-minute interview, and we talked for like an hour just about contracts and people holding out and what are you doing on this. And just and I remember specifically talked to him out in that hallway and said, Floyd, my God, I could talk to you all day. He's like, well, radio show's over at 6. You can come back. And so we just laughed about that. But to get in that knowledge of what he's had for football was fantastic. And he was always great, always great. And obviously I feel bad for Jared because Jared worked with him every day. And you're right, more of a mentor, of a father figure to him. And so your heart kind of breaks for Jared for what happened. But Floyd leaves a great legacy behind, and we all hope to leave that behind when we pass away. People respect us that much, and hear that from Saban was just amazing.
Yep. So we'll get a little bit more into this. We had some other sound bites from Jared's show. Talk a little bit about Floyd. If you'd like to get in on this, on our phone or text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We'll be back on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back, Robby and Rexrode. Joe Rexrode, Big Joe Dubin. Do I need to say just Joe Dubin, or do I have to say Big Joe Dubin? Would you like me to say Big Joe
Turn on
Dubin?
Microphone. You have to say Big Joe if you don't mind, because it discerns between you and I, between just the average Joe and the Big Joe. So if you don't mind doing that,
or little, petite Joe.
Either way,
over here, Big Joe over there. Michelle Knezovic, by the way, man, you are in for a couple of days here, Michelle.
I'm excited.
Get that on tape, will we? See what happens at Wednesday at 10 when we're done with this.
Like, whoo, oh, man. So, talking about Floyd Reese, and actually we have a caller, Rob from Nashville, on the line. Rob, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning, guys. And I just want to say, my heart is really, hurting, man, about this with Floyd and, his family. I can't say, how, Floyd just impacted, my life when I called on the radio station and just listened to him and Jared. They were just like, two people belong together on the radio. They had that good chemistry. Floyd would always, kind of debate with Jared, and that to me what made that show really, really, just totally awesome, because they gave that show a lot of excitement. When a person called on the radio, they give a lot of information. But Floyd, he was such a dynamic guy, and to me, he was more than just somebody that talked on the radio. He was just like a friend of mine. I felt like that I knew him, and I was real close to him. And Jared the same way. Both of them, I used to tell them they was my favorite guys on the radio. No disrespect to y'all. Y'all doing a fine job as well. But I won't hold you guys. I just, want to let you know, that we all love Floyd, and, thank you guys for what y'all do as well.
Thank you, Rob. Really appreciate that call. No offense taken. I agree.
Right.
I agree. I mean, again, I love giving Jared a hard time, and that will continue soon.
Yeah, right.
But I love that show. I mean, I loved the interaction. It was, obviously it's always fun. It was always fun to hear Floyd kind of, dunk on Jared, but he did it in a kindly, enjoyable, entertaining way. And it was a good it was just a good conversation.
There were many times I would listen to Floyd be telling Jared, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, there you go, Floyd. Yeah, we're all on your side right there. But, what Floyd's thing was, we could talk to a coach all day long, but you talk to a guy who's on the other side with the general manager and was also a coach as well. And, I remember when the team moved here in 90, the first season was in 97, and they go to Vanderbilt. They're in Memphis, and nobody's showing up at Memphis. They go to Vanderbilt, nobody's showing up at Vanderbilt. I'm thinking, what's going to happen here? I mean, are people going to go to the games? And that first game versus the Bengals in September of 99, and Adelphia Coliseum is sold out. And you're thinking, oh, God, this city's got something now. And, of course, the magical year of 99, and Floyd was responsible for that team and all the people that he drafted and then he signed. I mean, he went out and found a guy like Frank Wycheck, who was cut by the Redskins. Oilers are coming off the run and shoot. You go out and get a guy like a Wycheck and turns into, I think, one of the best tight ends ever played the game of football. I mean, who takes a chance on that? Then he drafts McNair at number 3 in 95 when everybody's like, you can't, a black quarterback from Alcorn State's not the answer. And look what McNair ended up doing in the NFL. I mean, so Floyd absolutely knew what he was doing all those years, and then got Eddie George in 96 and then just kept going on. But the one was, Curse in 99. I remember sitting over at Baptist Sports Park over in Bellevue the day of the draft, and I know they wanted Andy Katzenmoyer from the Buckeyes. People don't remember him, linebacker from Ohio State, and he had all the rage and everything.
Big cat.
And I think they took him right before Curse. So Curse just kind of fell in their lap. And next thing you know, there's Javon Curse wreaking havoc on the football field that year, and they go to the Super Bowl. So Floyd knew what he was doing. I mean, there was a lot of hits. There were misses, but a lot of hits.
Well, of course. Well, and I mean, it looks essentially like down the stretch there. I mean, you have salary cap realities. I mean, you're just going to, at some point, you're going to pay the piper.
That's right.
Right? I mean, you just you can't extend it forever, and obviously you had to move on for some guys, and it's too bad those teams couldn't have won one, because certainly he put together. I mean, his job of putting together a team, he put together a team that was good enough to win a Super Bowl for probably about 4 good seasons.
Well, you're right. 99, of course, they lost. 2000, that team,
that was the best team
by
period.
far. And then the Ravens came in here, and that's when the great play with Ray Lewis takes the ball from Eddie George and runs in for a touchdown. That hurt. And then 02, they go back to the AFC Championship game, and I think it was John Simon fumbles the second half kickoff. If he doesn't fumble, the Titans are still in that game. Then 03, they go to New England. Drew Bennett drops the pass. He catches that pass, and late in the fourth quarter, Titans win that game. They go down and win that game, but it didn't happen. And the next year, like you said, they had to pay the price for the salary cap, and from then it was never the same.
Yeah. So 5 years that they were a legit contender to win it, coming off the 8-8 stretch.
Yeah.
And I mean that's hard to do. It really is. It's hard to do that. Teams that have done that have had all-time, Hall of Fame, like legendary quarterbacks, and even if you look at the Patriots, I mean, obviously they've had that was a dynasty, and they had stretches, but they had down stretches too within the Brady Belichick, time together. I mean, 5 straight years of being that good is hard to pull off. So, and another thing with Saban yesterday that I thought was really interesting, talking about how no one was really. Basically Floyd took him under his wing as a coach. You think about that. Think about Nick Saban, needing a mentor. I mean, at that point, he had sort of been a DB's coach. Again, he had been D coordinator at Michigan State and had success, but first time in the NFL, position coach, and, you think about, well, come on, Nick, let me help you out.
Yeah.
Teach you a little bit about coaching. I mean, that's quite a legacy. Another guy, of course, who also had a close relationship with Floyd and going back to Minnesota. Going back to the old days, Bud Grant and the Vikings, was Pete Carroll, and he also was on Stillman and Company yesterday. Here's what Pete Carroll said about Floyd Reese.
work and personnel work, because I would have thought that there was no way that that he would want to make that transition, because he was such a ball guy. But what he decided to do is take all that experience and that background and the great people that he'd been around and put it to use in a broader sense than just coaching a position and coaching the side of the ball. And he was really, really good at it. And some great people in the business have noticed that and recognized him. When Bill brings him in there, that's a great statement. And he understood what the value that he had brought with him and all that. So there's nothing, and I'm sure this just continues to happen. Nothing but positive, good, upbeat. He was strong. He was tough. He was, you could count on him. He was a great friend. All of that stuff, and I'm not surprised at all that that's what's coming out.
So that was Pete Carroll, of course, Seattle Seahawks coach, on Floyd Reese, on Stillman and Company yesterday. I mean, it was one great guest after another, and again, it was it was a lot of emotion from Jared. And I mean, I texted him right after. I said, man, I was at my kids' freshman football game in the stands, listening to the phone at the end, up to my ear, listening to the end of the show, because the game was kicking off at 6:00, and I just texted, that was amazing, man. I mean, it was hard. It was hard to listen to a little bit because you knew how tough it was for him to get through it.
Yeah.
But he got through it, and I just thought, you can't ask for a better tribute than what they did for 4 hours yesterday. So
I totally agree.
Kudos to them.
So I'm looking at the 1984 Minnesota Vikings. Floyd was offensive coordinator on that team in 1984. Head coach was Les Steckel, who became the offensive coordinator when the Titans won the Super Bowl. The quarterback on the 1984 Minnesota Vikings.
Don't tell me. Tommy Kramer.
His backup was?
Wade Wilson?
Nope.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Archie Manning.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so that's 1984 final roster. Kramer, Steve Dills, and Archie Manning. So
Steve Dills.
You look at Floyd, the landscape that he was part of for all those years. I mean, that was NFL. I mean, he was
no doubt
involved in so many things there. And so we're just lucky we had to have him here in Nashville for, 14 seasons from 94 to 07.
So you're saying that when he was GM, because now I got to go back in the Big Joe. So when he was GM during those years, you were at Channel 2, is that right?
Channel 2, correct. I was a camera guy back then, but so went out and covered plenty. I mean, Music City Miracle, all those games we were there covering everything.
So you were where the Music City Miracle happens. You were where exactly?
In the end zone. So he ran. If you look at it, he's running literally right at me. But I was turned around getting a reaction because Titans fans, and you guys will not admit this, but y'all were booing the Titans before the kickoff.
Ooh.
They were booing because the Bills came back in the second half and took the lead.
Rob Johnson.
And I'll never forget. So I'm shooting fans' reaction, and they're booing and they're mad. And I see the Jumbotron up there, and I see Dyson going straight down the field. And it's weird because it's only a few seconds, but it seemed like a lifetime when he's running down the field like, is this really going to happen? And it happens, and he scores. And so that was on the field for that.
So you got the camera pointed up this way, and then you flip it around.
Flip it around when Dyson's about the 25-yard line. And we had like 5 cameras there that day as well. And so I got him. When he circles the end zone, I'm sitting there, and I got a big gray fleece on. I look like a giant gray blob, and he runs past me. And then they had to review it, so there was all quiet. And I'll never forget, the stadium was quiet. And they reviewed the play, and then they said it was a touchdown. It was a legal pass, and the crowd went nuts.
I mean, that's the thing. If it just as a viewer from afar, I mean, that took a long time to make sure it was like you watch the replay, and it's like but I mean, it could have gone either way.
And
that was the right call.
You had 69,000 people, and it was quiet. I mean, it was quiet. And then I never forget, the referee came out and said touchdown. And the stadium went nuts. But what's weird about that, and I'm gonna go off a little side tangent. When we did the cover of the game, we're leaving, parked next to us in the parking lot, media parking lot, was Ron Jaworski. So I'm like, let's talk to him. And this is odd, right? He's giant. I had no idea Ron Jaworski was that tall. I thought maybe 6 foot. He's like 6'3", 6'4". He's huge. Talking to him. Anyway, that's when he said, "Hey, they've coined this the Music City Miracle." I'm like, because, you've been in the locker room. You're not hearing all the stuff the fans are talking about. And then you hear him say, everybody's talking, this is the Music City Miracle. I'm like, did you come up with that?
Did you tweet it right then?
I did not tweet it right then. And I said, that's pretty good. He's like, I didn't say it, but I'll take credit for it. I was like, all right. He was very, very, very nice in the parking lot. So those were all the time. And you think all the history Floyd was a part of in all those games. It was amazing.
What about just Floyd? As before we go to break here, just Floyd's work in getting people into this team. Obviously, building the team is the key, and I know Jeff Fisher was very out front too. But what about Floyd as an ambassador back then, from your perspective?
Oh, he was fantastic. He was always accessible. I remember going and doing interviews. Hey, we're going to talk to the Titans GM real quick. I'm like, okay, and then you'd run down. There he was. I mean, he was always accessible. And no offense to John Robinson, but I don't think you or I could call up John Robinson. Hey, man, can I get a quick soundbite? And they were calling up Floyd. He's like, yeah, I'll talk to you. I think he knew part of the game was selling this franchise, selling this team to a brand new market. And he was always accessible. Him and Fisher were both accessible. And you'd see him at training camp, and he would talk to you and everything. And I think John Robinson has a lot of Floyd in him too as well, as far as the personality and talking and joking and getting to know people. And so Floyd,
he's been very good in that way.
Floyd is an ambassador for this football team. I think was vastly underrated, because that was not his job. He was a general manager. He wasn't PR. He was not supposed to be PR, but he did a great job of getting out of the community and talking to people, and that's what I always remember about him.
So we'll get more into Floyd today as well. If you'd like to contribute, to the text line driven by WellesleyCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We're going to take a break and come back and get into the current Titans a little bit. Some takeaways from yesterday's practice here on Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. And that was Derrick Henry, of course. King Henry, running back for the Tennessee Titans, talking yesterday about practice. Welcome back to Robby and Rexrode. Joe Rexrode, Joe Dubin, Michelle Knezovic. And we're going to get into the Titans a little bit, Joe. So it was weird out there yesterday. Let me just say.
Right.
It was weird. And I guess I didn't really, it's like you don't appreciate how, is powerful the word? How sort of ever-present something is until it's gone.
Okay.
Vrabel's voice running that practice. I mean, Vrabel, he's got a pretty impressive command of everything.
Really?
And he's like, bah, you did. I mean, he's got, he's running things, man.
So who ran practice yesterday?
Well, I mean, I would say basically people ran their own areas, but Craig Aukerman, the special teams coach, when they gathered before practice, and they gathered to break into groups, he addressed the team, and then at the end he addressed them again. Now, will that be the same thing today? I don't know. But for the most part, it was. I mean, look, there are other coaches out there who certainly have some booming voices, and they're coaching. They're coaching hard and all that. But Vrabel, sort of, just the head coach in command of everything. You certainly notice the difference when he's not out there. So,
well, I just think that's his life. I mean, no offense. I mean, that's a coach's life, and so you're out there every day, and then next thing you know, you can't be out there. I just want to know what he did, like during practice. I mean, I'm sure they set up some kind of special Zoom where he was watching something.
Right.
He just couldn't sit there and watch Drew Carey on The Price is Right from 10 to 11, which is an awful show now, by the way.
Is it?
That's pretty bad.
They still do the yodeler?
They do, but he looks weird. He looks completely different. Like
Drew Carey or the yodeler?
Everybody. Even the models. I mean, they all look weird. So I just wonder what he did. Did he watch The View? I don't know. From 10 to 11?
That's I don't know.
Rachel Ray's on there.
Well, actually, so the practice has moved back now. So it was 12:15 to 2 yesterday. So I don't know what you tell me the daytime. Is that more like One Life to Live? We get into Days of Our Lives type stuff?
General Hospital? Do those things still around? I'm not sure.
I think General Hospital is a little later in the afternoon.
Is it 2 to 3?
In my experience, yeah. As a diehard General Hospital fan in the 80s.
Well, what's funny about practice? I remember one time when Fisher was here, they used to practice. They had 2-a-days. They would do 8 to 10, and then they would do 4 to 6:30, whatever.
And just smash helmets the entire time,
which was fantastic, by the way.
Yeah.
And then so they had to go to the 1-a-day practice. And I'll never forget, Fisher was just talking to us off the record, much of us sending it around. And his quandary was, do you practice before or after lunch? And his thing was, if you go after lunch, it's an awful practice because the guys are bloated. And and I'm thinking, I could be on this team because if it bloated what it takes to be on the Titans, hell, I'd start this Sunday for the team. So he'd
a 3 technique. Throw you in there.
I know, I'm a 2 guy, man. I'd stand up. And so you're thinking, wow, there's a lot that goes into this. So they moved practice back to the morning, that way they would not be so bloated after eating lunch and everything. And so when I hear practice moves back, I guess they ate afterwards?
Yeah, in fact, it's funny you say that because Aukerman at the end, you're trying to get in there and catch a little bit. You're trying to drift closer to the circle, hear what Aukerman's saying. And he did say, lunch is at 2, because actually they ended a little bit early, lunch 2, and then,
Did he not go to the podium yesterday?
He did not. So, again, it's not like it's an official, Craig Aukerman is in charge. Vrabel did mention him Sunday. When Vrabel told us that he's positive for COVID-19, that's the first name he came up with. He also mentioned how, Jim Schwartz and Jim Haslett have both been head coaches, but Jim Schwartz coaching the inside linebacker. It seemed to me like everybody out there was basically just doing what they normally do, and then Aukerman addressed, when the whole group was together a couple times. So we actually got Shane Bowen yesterday, along with Derrick Henry at the podium. So
I don't know why you would not put the guy who's leading at the. Is it some sort of shrine? You can't get him over. I haven't been out there in 2 years, so
I just don't. I think it was basically just Craig, say a few words here and here, and then coach special teams.
Well, I think you can't have the offensive or defensive coordinator run in practice. Does that make sense?
I would agree.
Yeah. It's a great thing. When John Harbaugh got hired by the Ravens in 2008, I'll never forget talking to Tim Hasselbeck on this station. I said, you hired a special teams coach from the Eagles, John Harbaugh was. He says, you got to remember, the special teams coach is the one coach that literally talks to every player except maybe the quarterback. Because at some point, everybody's on special teams at some point.
Right.
And so he's got this great rapport with the team. And, of course, Harbaugh has been there now since, this is his 14th season.
He's done okay.
Won a Super Bowl. They got a great team, great chance to win this year. So you got a special teams guy to go in there and do it. And obviously, Vrabel trusts him. Nice.
Yeah, so and I assume that'll be the same thing today. But, of course, today they have another practice. Then they're off tomorrow. And, as of now with Vrabel, you'd expect it to be 10 days, which basically, puts him – obviously they got the Bears game Saturday, and then you got a week of practice. I mean, it's a weird – we got to get used to the new NFL schedule now where you have a preseason game and then you have a long break before you play any football again. So he'll be, in the middle of that when he comes back.
Do you not think he's going to try to take the 2 negative tests?
Well, sure. I mean, and it's possible that he could get 2 negatives before the 10-day period. But I mean, he was taking a PCR test after the initial couple, and so you would expect that it would probably be positive through the duration. I mean, we'll see.
Right.
And if that's the case, obviously he won't be there Saturday night, and then they would go into the next week. And by then, maybe Julio Jones will be on the field. Maybe there'd be more A.J. Brown. I mean, one of the things from yesterday that I will say was probably one of the most positive developments is that a lot of the offensive linemen were back. And that's been – I mean, they've been gone. So, so Ben Jones has been gone for a while. He was out there. He didn't do everything, but he was out there. Nate Davis, again, didn't do anything, but he was out there. Kendall Lamb didn't do anything, but he was out there. Those guys have been gone. Lawan is out there doing everything now. Derrick Henry did by far the most he has done in practice. And again, it's helmets and shorts, but
that's fine.
There's still some contact and some team stuff with linemen going at each other, and Derrick Henry actually ran through live bodies going full speed. I mean, to me, it's the first time I've seen it all camp. There was a little bit of dispute with the press corps on that. But,
you guys, fighting amongst yourselves. Look, I don't need to see Derrick Henry Saturday. I don't need to see Julio Jones Saturday.
Won't.
I don't need to see those guys. I just, again, you look at the other side of this. Derrick Henry goes in and plays, twists his ankles out for 4 weeks. We don't for a meaningless preseason game. We don't need to see that. So,
well, I agree. Now, if fans are paying money for this,
but you know that going in. You know that going in, man.
No,
Preseason.
I understand, but I'm just saying I hope for their sake, and maybe a little bit for media's sake too, that there's maybe a couple series of Tannehill. A little bit of the. I mean, we've seen a lot of defensive starters playing, not a ton. But they've been playing. I think it was 7 starters started the game at Tampa. So I would and look, I think there is some value in some real dress rehearsal. Getting some of the offensive linemen out there maybe if they're okay. I mean, I understand what you're saying. If you get an injury in a situation like this, you're like, why was I doing that? But also, is everybody going to be in bubble wrap until opening kickoff?
It's another question that they've got to face. And, going back years ago when the guys were in practice, the 2-a-day hitting nonstop, they don't do that anymore. That's nothing. So
they were playing like a half of a preseason game too, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And so you can't go – and I see both sides of the bubble wrap thing, and you could get hurt walking to your car. I get all that stuff.
A lot of non-contact injuries just in a practice.
There is. There's guys falling down left and right at practice around, and even untouched. I mean, A.J. McCarron the other day blew his knee out, and he was just planting his leg, and he blew it out. So it's a 50-50, but, man, Derrick Henry gets in and hurts himself, and gets hurt, then that's – Boy, they're going to come down hard on that. So just don't play those guys.
Yeah, well, he won't, and I wouldn't either. I mean, he got a little bit of work yesterday. You'll see 22 on opening day, which is fine. I think sometimes, especially with the passing game, if you got to work on chemistry at some point a little bit, especially with Tannehill and Jones, and we'll see. I mean, Julio Jones still not out there, and I have no idea when he will be. We're going to get a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about a position for the Titans that has been problematic and maybe isn't so much anymore.
I don't know what this is. I'm looking for it. Tell me.
Is that a tease? Huh? Are you excited? Can you wait to come back?
Yes, that's a good tease.
All right, come back. on Robby and Rex Show. Joe Rexrode, Joe Dubin, Michelle Knezovic, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
It's a well done tease.
.1025 The Game and Heineken are getting on the road with the Roadies to see Nashville SC take on Atlanta United. This is Saturday. Join the Roadies on the road. All you got to do, all you have to do to enter is text RIDE THE BUS, all one word, to 615-737-1025. Winner will receive 2 round-trip seats on the bus, 2 tickets in the Roadies section at the Saturday match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and a prize pack. Contest closes at 6 o'clock today, and you must be 21 to enter. Welcome back, Robby and Rexrode. Joe Rexrode, Joe Dubin, Michelle Knezovic.
Wait, you said ride the bus. You remember the kids show, the Doodle Bops?
I remember that.
Yeah, the Doodle Bops?
Their song was "Get on the bus, get on the bus, we'll get on the bus." Yeah, I mean it was awful. It was an awful show, and then
the Doodle Bus,
Doodle Bops,
the
Doodle Bops,
the Doodle Bops.
Don't play difficult.
You have a freshman in high school just like I do, both playing football,
right?
So this was his thing.
Football?
No, Doodle Bops.
Oh, no, it was TV's, like Homer Simpson says, TV's the greatest babysitter.
Yeah.
So you'd put him in front of the TV, and then Doodle Bops was like,
I just don't remember that one.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I remember, the freaking Wiggles.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Caillou, Caillou was just
awful.
Infuriating.
Awful show.
I loved that show.
It's. I tell you, I got a problem with Canadian. It's a Canadian show.
Oh, is that right?
I got a problem with Canadians.
Really?
Yeah.
Just in general? You're
just overall.
Biased against Canadians.
Don't trust them. And so Caillou was a Canadian
They're too
show.
kind.
They're too something. So they need just to stay away.
Get Uda here, Joe.
Except for Barry Trotz.
Bias. Yeah, man, come on,
Blackberry
nicest
trucks.
guy in the world, right?
Right.
Yeah, Caillou was a brutal show.
It was.
I'm sorry, Michelle.
It's all right, guys. I didn't like the Doodle Bobs, though. That was so aggressive.
I totally missed the Doodle Bobs.
Dude, it was an odd show.
Huh.
But you said, get on the bus. We'll get on. So they hopped on this magic bus. It took them around wherever they went.
Well, I mean, look, I hope the roadies, maybe we can blast that on the way down to Atlanta.
I'm sure they'll love the comparison to all that.
Yeah, we'll put together a playlist for you.
All right, you teased me, Joe. You teased me.
I tease you, yeah. So I think the Titans might have a kicker. Now,
is that what
you
we're
don't
going?
think so? You don't count kickers as a
Or
football
punt.
position?
I do not.
Oh, so you're like Bo Schembechler. It's like, get rid of the kickers, and everybody go for two all the time.
Right.
Come on, man. It's a game of skill too.
What's the famous quote from Woody Hayes about Michigan? Why he went for two at the end of the
Because I couldn't
game?
go for three.
That is an all-time great quote.
Oh, it's great.
But no, so he booted
They
it.
put the 50 spot on him.
We got to say his name properly so I don't mess it up. The kicker, Sam, right?
Yep, Sam, good job. Yep. You're
Ficken.
You're on a roll. Okay, yeah.
Is that
you
correct?
Got it. You are right. Sam Ficken. I mean, frickin' kicking Ficken is gonna be I mean, we could have fun. Someone tweeted this and I feel bad because I saw it and I think I was gonna retweet it and I didn't. Someone tweeted, I want to know who gets credit for this. Nashville Hot Ficken. That's good.
That's really good.
Nashville Hot Ficken is pretty good. I missed who did it. So if you know out there who tweeted that, let me know because they deserve credit.
Probably Ron Jaworski. He took credit for Music City Miracle.
That's right.
Credit for that.
It was huge. What are you going to do?
Well, so what happens when he misses?
What are you going to say to that guy?
What happens when he misses 3 field goals in a game?
Well, I mean look. I mean I'm not completely sold or committed that he's going to win the job, but Tucker McCann, feel terrible for Tucker McCann. He was waived as injured yesterday. I mean, the guy was better than Ficken, was outperforming him, and was having a great night, finally getting a chance to kick in a preseason game and was crushing it. And then he gets a late hit on his foot, and he's hurt, and he's done now. I mean, for this season, you can probably count him out, or maybe at least for part. I mean, the Titans have invested in Tucker McCann. Obviously, they see something with him. But meanwhile, you bring in Ficken, and he has been very good too, and then especially lately. I mean, he's been excellent. So we had Jimmy Wyatt on yesterday. He said, of course, he keeps stats on everything, including Snide Kaharski comments at practice. He's up to a record number this year. But 48 for 53 is what Ficken is
in practice.
In practice, according to Wyatt, which is pretty good, including a 58-yarder that he doinked, but he, had plenty. Then he hits a 58-yarder against Tampa Bay. I'm not saying right now, I mean, flat out, period, he's the guy. I will say that if he performs well this week and then Saturday, I like his chances. And look, he was 13 for 15 for the Jets last year. It seems like he is on a positive trend.
Okay.
You also wonder, the Jets obviously were ready to move on from him, so you always have that to consider. But he's closing in on this.
Well, I just think we'll see the game. I mean, it's all about the Cardinals, the first game, and see what happens when he puts that first kick through the uprights, whether it's an extra point or a field goal. They'll have it done. But it's a lot with – you forget how reliable a kicker can be when you've got a really good one on your team. And then the last couple of years, they've had this mixed mash of kickers that come through and couldn't hit anything. And Santos, was that the one guy, Cairo?
Well, Cairo Santos was done the day he went 0 for 4 against Buffalo. They lost 14, and Vrabel put him out for a long one when he was already 0 for 3, and then he just predictably missed it.
It's one of those where you go out there, are you hiding or like, oh, God, I got another one to go out there and kick. But, Ficken comes in.
And he's been great since then, by the way.
Where is he now?
Gosh, I'm not sure, but he had where is Santos right now? I'll look that up. But
Arena ball?
He was good. Parkey was good. Of course, he was part of that season. Obviously, we know Ryan Suckup has a ring now.
He does.
He's been
with the Buccaneers.
I mean, he's been great. So they've had bad luck, but they've also, I think, made some rash decisions to get them to this point.
Yeah, and the kickers that you go back through the franchises they've been here with Del Greco, with Nedney, with Baronis, with Suckup, and then now hopefully they got one that'll stick around for a while.
Yeah, so I mean Santos was what was he, 10 for 10 last year for the Bears? Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah. It's amazing. Like, everybody leaves here and they're just incredible.
Is he still on the team? So it means he'll be coming here Saturday night to take on the Titans.
Is that? Yeah, let's see. Is he? Yeah. He is still with the Bears, so that's right. So they see Suckup last Saturday. They see Santos this Saturday.
Isn't it crazy how you can just look that up in seconds? Where
yeah, what did you do back in the the 60s?
We lied and we said it all with conviction.
Did you send someone to like the library?
We had to.
You go through the Dewey Decimal System to look something up
and get your Funk and Wagnalls out and look at it that way and plagiarize the encyclopedia instead of doing it on the internet right then. I guess we lied about all of it. I would think
That's
so,
fine. But who's going to argue, right? They don't have the internet to contest you.
No, not at all. Now you can look it up within seconds and find the information that you need to go in there. By the way, we talked earlier. This is all back the Floyd stuff and Floyd's history. We talked about Floyd and Saban with the Oilers from 86 to 88 when Saban was there, and 88 to 89, linebacker coach, whatever.
Right.
The running backs on this 1989 Houston Oilers team.
I know one of them.
And it is?
Low White.
So
Lorenzo White, baby.
You had the run and shoot with your running backs, Lorenzo White, Mike Rozier, Alan Pinkett, and Alonzo Highsmith.
Gosh, that is right. They had, I remember that Rozier was actually very good still for them.
And the receivers, Haywood Jeffries, Drew Hill, Ernest Givens, Curtis Duncan.
Oh, yeah.
Floyd was on that team. That was the 89 team. Floyd was a linebacker coach. Nick Saban was a secondary coach in 89.
Right, and that was, for people who remember that era, like you said, run and shoot. Basically, the Oilers and the Lions were the two teams that were really known for that. I mean, you're talking four wide, basically. I mean, like no usage of tight end or fullback. I mean, you're just gunning it around.
That's all it
Warren
was.
Moon was great.
Oh, he's fantastic back then. If you ever played fantasy football, that's when it all started, late 80s, early 90s. You'd have to get an Oiler receiver on your team because they were throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game.
Right. Now, you also, obviously, that could be problematic for defense. So I wrote a thing about Bruce Matthews for The Athletic recently because he's one of our top 100 players of all time. And you forgot. I'm going through that. I'm like, gosh, that's right. So you were this great offensive line with these great offensive line with Munchak and during it's run and shoot stuff. So you're just in a pass set like all day. That must have sucked, right?
Every
As an
time.
offensive line. And he was like, yeah, believe me, like you think about what Floyd did. They go from that to, okay, Jeff Fisher, and let's play like absolute power football.
Yep.
I mean, those guys, I can tell you that talking to Bruce Matthews, he was, that was nice.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, let's fire off the ball at people again.
And that's what we talk about Floyd going and finding a Frank Wycheck who was cut by the Redskins because they wanted to get out of the run and shoot and go to power football. And so you go out and find this tight end who was cut by the Redskins, who would do it okay for them, but you would never
becomes
think
a great player for you.
Yeah, so Floyd with these gold mines. But you think my thing with Floyd in '89 being the linebacker coach, going against that offense in practice every day, because you're like, there's no run. I mean, you're getting the ball thrown to you every single time, so your defense got to be back on their heels. And they had a nice defense back then too, as well.
Yeah, they were solid.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, you're also talking about, so Jack Pardee, but then you had like the Glanville era and the Glanville and Buddy Ryan. I mean, you had some wild stuff going on with
you did
with the Oilers.
With all that. And Floyd, that's why Floyd was so great to talk to, because he was part of all of that. And he would talk to you about all that stuff, which was just fascinating to me.
I mean, you're talking about UCLA as a player.
Yeah.
Going back to a golden era for them with, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as a classmate. I mean, you think about like Floyd's, time in sports. It's pretty special stuff. We're going to get a break. We're going to come back. I've got a 53-man roster. I'm going to have Big Joe rank all 53 of my choices and see where he disagrees. That's coming up next on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome in the second hour, Robby and Rexrode. Joe Rexrode, Joe Dubin, Petite Joe Rexrode, Big Joe Dubin, Michelle Knezovic, and Robby Stanley is, let's see, so it's 8 Eastern. I would hope the Stanley family would be,
I'm just telling people he's out on paternity leave. And they're like, oh, I didn't know he had a baby. And I'm like, I know, I think he got a cat. So it just confuses people. Just let it go with that.
Did he actually get a cat?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Robby posted some amazing photos on social media yesterday. He was on the Buzz Lightyear ride. He was in Magic Kingdom.
When you say social media, which one?
I saw some on Instagram. He's in the Buzz Lightyear little thing.
Aww.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Oh, man.
And then on Twitter, I think he's got a full family photo in Magic Kingdom.
Have you been to Disney World?
Yeah, that Buzz Lightyear. So my oldest, who now is a senior, how old would he have been? He was young, and he was freaked out. Like, it was one of those things where you make a big scene, and everybody's like, trying to wait.
Right.
Come on, make up your mind, kid. And finally, basically, like, I forcibly put him on there with me, and after like a few seconds, like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
But it was like pure terror.
Well, I went one time, and then I guess at 9 o'clock they do Tinkerbell comes flying down, the castle lights up.
Yeah.
And I have never seen, and I'm not demeaning anybody out there, but I've never seen so many people in absolute hysterics, tears, crying.
You talking about like the parade at the end kind of thing?
Whatever, when they light Tinkerbell
Yeah,
comes flying down. I don't remember.
You weren't crying?
I had carried my daughter around the park on my shoulders for 8 hours, and I wanted to go anywhere but there. And we're talking grown men. We're just bawling at all that. And so,
but not you. You were the tough guy.
Tough guy, man. I was the one I was like the great Santini. I'm like Robert Duvall. I'm like, why are you crying? Why are you crying? Stop your crying over there. But I did not know the true impact of Disney till I saw that. Till I was there and saw these people bawling over this.
Yeah.
It's like, then I thought, you know what? Maybe I need to get in touch with myself.
Yeah, maybe. It's a little bit scary though.
I got no
sometimes.
emotions at all. Zero.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it.
Okay. Well, hey, we've really gone into a totally different area than I expected we would today.
Okay.
So we can work on that, Joe.
Just don't sit in my lap. You're good.
All right. So we're talking. What are we talking? We're talking 53-man roster.
Aren't those? What are we down to? 1 or 2 guys? I mean, is that right? You probably know.
Today is a cut down day to. Oh, you're talking like
the final 53.
I think there's a few. There's a few interesting.
But these are guys
spots.
that we're never going to hear from. You talked about Sargent yesterday, Mackay Sargent.
Yep.
If we're talking him in week 4,
that's a problem.
We're also talking about the number 1 draft pick in 2022. I mean, so I get we have to talk about this stuff because it's camp, but we're never going to hear from this guy again.
Well, okay, so I would agree on that one.
Okay.
I would, but you look at certain positions like outside linebacker. I mean, even safety, you're going to have injuries. I mean, you're going to have, and it's not going to necessarily be devastating to your season. You need depth, and like even at receiver. I mean, it's not just this year. It's like the future. You've drafted a guy in the 4th round who right now I really struggled whether to put him on or not. But that's a really interesting situation, and it does impact this year because I think Marcus Johnson and Chester Rogers are going to make plays for the Titans this year. I really do. Going into camp, I didn't have either of them on my 53. Now, they're high.
Usually in the past you would think about the guys that they're going to make it, and you would know going on like solid set. There's a few positions here and there, but more and more now it seems like, all right, you've got your opportunity to prove. If you're not a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, you're not penciled in going into the offseason right there, then you're going to have a tough time making the team. And now you got these guys. And these are great stories, like the Kinsey guy, the receiver. Those are great stories because we go back. I go old school with Drew Bennett when he came to the team. And nobody heard of Drew Bennett when he came here. But then he goes to these practices and preseason games. Like, he has to be on your team. And that's what you're saying with these guys. They have to be part of this team.
Yeah. So, Mason Kinsey is a good example of where you gotta keep in mind what you're looking at. And you could say the same thing about Mackay Sargent. I just think he's more talented than Jeremy McNichols and would be potentially a better option if it got to that. But Darrington Evans he's got to be healthy. That's a big question, obviously. But, like Mason Kinsey's a good example of a guy who's been very good. And obviously he's had great success in these 2 preseason games. He's not a threat to me to make the roster. It's just there's just too many good players ahead of him. And that's just daily in practice. He's behind too many guys.
Right.
Now, what he's doing right now, there are teams out there who, they've got preseason film to watch again, unlike a year ago. I could absolutely see someone being interested, and I think the Titans would love for him to be on their practice squad. I mean, he would give the defense a good look consistently. It's just this is not the best camp for him to try to make this team. But there are some guys, on this 53, for example, going in, I'll give you my headline, Joe.
Give it.
Say Ola to Ola and consider sticking with Ficken, okay? Now that's just, come on. That's just some
I like the effort, Joe.
Yeah,
that's
wordsmithery right there. But Ola Adeni, and I hope I'm saying his last name right. He's been one of the stories to me of camp. He is, one, on special teams, an asset. But I would argue, like Rashad Weaver right now is probably the third guy, okay?
Okay.
But Ola, I think John Simon's going to make the team too, but, he's got some real pass rush ability. I think he's going to beat out Derek Roberson for sure. I think Derek Roberson's time here is probably done. That'd be my guess. No? You down on that?
No, I just don't.
You don't buy it?
No, I couldn't tell you who Derek Roberson is. He walked in here. I just don't like guys. Is Dane Cruikshank still on the team?
So what you're telling me is that you basically pay attention to the top 20 guys on a football team, and
Pretty
then you
much.
just ignore everybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, Dane Cruikshank is on the team. He's been hurt. I don't think he's making this either.
Yeah. So I go back to 2018. All right.
That's the last time you watched football?
3 years ago, right? So I'm looking at the team, the Titans, the starters in this team. Follow me on this one. All these guys are gone. Mariota, Corey Davis, Tajay Sharp, Jonnu Smith, Luke Stalker's back, but I don't count him. Quentin Spain's gone.
He doesn't rise to the
Josh
big Joe
Klein,
roster level.
Jack Conklin. All these guys. So the turnover's always constantly going. So the days when we grew up in football, when you'd have a Jack Ham who plays with the Steelers for those days are gone.
Yeah, well, now, there's look, Taylor Lewan may end up being here for a decade. There are great players who, Derrick Henry could end up being here for a decade, right? So there are great players who teams lock up. Kevin Byard, some of these guys, but certainly there's a ton of churn and a ton of turnover. Conklin is an example of a guy who, you could make the case, man, if they would have paid him, would have made things tighter in other areas, but then they don't draft Isaiah Wilson, and they didn't draft Dylan Radins this year.
Good point.
And they use those draft picks on other people, and they have a great player at right and left tackle long term. But
let me ask you this, Isaiah Wilson. All right, at some point, do we go and question Sam Pittman, the coach at Arkansas?
I don't.
Why not?
I think that's a fair question to bring up.
For those that don't know, Sam Pittman was his position coach at Georgia. So at some point, John Robinson and Vrabel talked to Pittman, and he was like, I just want to know what he said. This guy is fantastic. And because was he like this at Georgia?
No, and this is, I've talked a little bit about this, written a little bit, but not much. But no. Look, I think the biggest red flag anybody had on Isaiah Wilson was, a little bit immature. Apparently there was one workout with a team where he showed up late or something, but there wasn't much. And yeah, Sam Pittman was effusive in praise.
Yes.
But you can go to Georgia people now still, and and in part, I've got a coworker who covers Georgia is like, hey, this was not. Isaiah Wilson went from, and this can happen, maybe a little bit immature or whatever, but all by all accounts a hard worker. All these people liked him. He gets to the NFL. He's a first-round pick. Obviously, there's money. He's also in a new city. He's also in a pandemic, and some things that I think he has some issues that were triggered here.
Okay.
Frankly, so look, I'm not trying to take responsibility off his plate or anybody else's plate, but I think this is one of those just situations where it just totally changed. His life changed 180 when he got here.
So you don't think there were any kind of issues beforehand? There had to be something. To me, it just didn't. You just don't turn that way when you get to town.
Well, but don't people at some point, at times in their lives,
I'm sure
have whatever it is, huge life changes, and maybe people have something that's inside that hasn't been triggered or brought out. I think Isaiah is struggling with some things, and hopefully he's.
I get it. Look, I'll find a 20
better
in my pants when I'm doing the wash, and I'm ecstatic over the $20 bill. I couldn't imagine having $1 million. You put yourself in the situation. What would you do? Like,
if I had $1 million as a 21-year-old,
yeah. So, but I just want to go back to Pittman, and so does Pittman now the mea culpa of, hey, I'm sorry. That's what I would do. Be like, I did not see that there, and I'm sorry that it happened there, but I did not see it over here. And he was a great player for us and everything. I just wonder.
Yeah, I look. It's totally fair to because this certainly happens. There are college coaches who people in the NFL know. Okay, that guy's going to tell us the truth. Be real careful here because it's all sunshine and rainbows with every one of his players, and they know this. But it benefits you as a college coach to be honest about this stuff. It really does.
Right. I don't know if this was. I heard Jimmy Johnson speak one time about recruiting college when he was with the Cowboys. He would make, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, he would make the coaches when they would go scout or the scouts talk to the assistant to the custodian at the facility because, did Joe Rexrode, does he work? Is he on time? Because the other guy's probably going to give the true answer, and you'd be like, hey, man, this guy, he's rude to us. He doesn't show up. And then is that a factor? I mean, it could be if a guy's a 5th or 6th or 7th rounder. So you don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that.
I'm glad you brought that up because the thing, look, by all accounts, everything figured out. I mean, the Titans did all that stuff. Now, it is different in a pandemic. Maybe sitting in a room with someone, maybe there's a little bit of a different tell, but honestly, I don't think it would have been different. And they talked to these teams have to do that. They talk to the your junior high third best friend.
Yeah.
Like, did he put gum under his desk during class? I mean, like, and this one is just, I mean, I really believe it. I mean, it hurts John Robinson to make that pick. So you can't just say, oh, you take that risk. But, I mean, I think this is a situation where it went downhill dramatically once he got here.
Yeah, and I like Conklin. He was just you covered him in Michigan State. I liked it. He was just a smash mouth guy that caused no problems, got the job done.
And he's doing great in Cleveland.
But now Robinson's first 3 number 1 draft choices are all gone. And so now you're down to Rashaan Evans. They didn't get him for the next year. And then who was 19? My mind's leaving.
Well, Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah, okay.
And that one's looking good.
That one was really good. And then so – I mean,
but
you're doing good on the
draft
back end.
well.
Before we go to the break, who's the one team that passed on Derrick Henry in the 2016 draft?
The one team?
One team.
He went in the second round.
Yep, one team passed on him.
Okay, I don't know.
Patriots, because they didn't have a pick in the first round. So every team passed on Derrick Henry except the Patriots.
Oh, the one team that didn't, you're saying?
Because they didn't have.
I got you.
Every team passed on him except
the Patriots.
Yeah. Derrick Henry. I remember that talk too, because that was like running backs are devalued. They're devalued. Nobody wants a running back. And you saw what he did in college, thinking, who are? And so when Robinson took him, I was like, good for you, John.
And remember, he was a third-string running back at one point in 2018. So, yeah. All right, we come back. We're going to talk more. We're going to talk some more about Big Joe's favorite thing, the Big Uglies, here on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 105 The Game. Welcome back, Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game in the wholesaling studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. Joe Rexrode, Big Joe Dubin, media darling at Main Street, Nashville.
Sorry.
Oh, look at Big Joe had a mute issue. Bless your heart.
Nashville's media darling. 19 years in a row. Thank you.
That's usually me having the mute issue, by the way. So,
Not today.
So
It's
yeah,
me.
I appreciate your contribution. Let's go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's see. We've got Adam in Portland with a few takes. One is Gostkowski was like 6 for 23 last year, but the 6 were all game winners. We need an improvement. He was not 6 for 23. He did have some miss though. He did have some misses. He did get better as the season went on. I'm not completely closed the door on Gostkowski as a possible call here, but right now, Ficken, and no one has told me who came up with Nashville hot Ficken, right? By the way, so
Just take it.
Come
man.
on, I can't steal that.
Why not?
Now listen, I want to tell you my proudest moment. Okay,
Sure.
so I covered Michigan State. They had Jim Bowman. You're gonna love this nickname because this is right up your alley. So Jim Bowman and Dave Warner were the co-offensive coordinators. Jim Bowman was at Ohio State forever, O-line coach. He was a D'Antonio guy. Then Dave Warner. So they were co-offensive coordinators. They had the record-breaking offense in school history. Connor Cook was a quarterback. They
What
lost
year?
to So this is 2014.
Okay.
They lost to Mariota out in Oregon the year that day I was like, yep, there's my Heisman winner. But the offense was so good, and I was like, I need to come up with a nickname. Dave Warner, Jim Bowman. Bowman Warner Overdrive. Come on, man. Come on. And how that didn't sell 1 million T-shirts, I have no idea. I didn't even make a T-shirt, but I should have.
That was a long way to get through the front door on that one.
Dude, you didn't love that? Come on. You tell me you're not a BTO fan?
Yeah, but that's
I'm very disappointed in your reaction.
Say their
That
names
hurts.
again. Give me
That
the
hurts
names
my
again.
feelings.
Jim Bowman.
Jim Bowman,
Bowman.
Bollman, and then
Okay.
Dave Warner. Bowman Warner Overdrive. Come on.
Can you shorten that?
Canadian. It's just because they're Canadian, right? They're a Canadian band, and so you don't think it's cool.
Is that right?
It must
that's
be.
fine. I need to take them off my play. If they're Canadian, I'm taking off my playlist.
God, I'm gonna
Don't
give you-
trust them.
Have some poutine and chill out, man. Adam in Portland also says, as a 22-year Titans fan PSL holder, I'm much more excited about seeing our young DBs continue to make plays Saturday than seeing Derrick Henry on the field. Yeah, Derrick Henry won't be on the field. But
I get it. You're excited, but you're doing it against Kyle Trask, and who was the other guy they brought in, the quarterback, the Bucks?
it was ugly. Yeah, it was. I honestly, I've forgotten, and I want to continue to forget.
Let me ask you: do we need a third preseason game? I don't think we do.
Well, no, 2 is probably fine. I will say that as much as I've complained about preseason games, and again, my big thing is single game ticket prices for them should
Okay.
be. Now, I understand if you buy a season ticket package, you can divide it up however you want. You can say, well, the preseason game is only $5 and the other games are – but single game tickets for a preseason game to me should be way cheaper so people can walk up and come sit in the stadium, and maybe it's – in some markets – it could be their chance to watch a team, right?
Okay. All right. I get with that. But let me tell you what. The most fun I've had at a Titans practice as a media member, and you're not supposed to go out there being fun, but this is for me, was 2 years ago when Brady came down to the Patriots. I would see that on a Saturday night, the 1-on-1 drills, the 7-on-7 drills, because in that day, Tom Brady absolutely destroyed the Titans secondary that day. Mariota was absolutely awful. And
Yep.
I will say that was a day that Vrabel said, I can't do – we'll see what Mariota can do for us. But, Mariota was airmailing passes that were hitting people downtown. It was easy pass. It was awful. So what the Bucks and Titans did on Wednesday, Thursday, I'd pay to see that because that was really, the 1-on-1 drills with the linemen going each other. That's fantastic.
Sure.
This other stuff, no. So I would rather see a practice / scrimmage than I would
A televised practice.
It would. I think I watch NFL Network when they're out doing. They had the Rams and the Raiders on the other day. I would watch that stuff because those are good battles that they'll never do it. Get it. They'll never do it.
Hey, you say they'll never do it. We're old enough to remember when the draft was, few guys sitting in a room and they'd call up, hey, by the way, you've been drafted in the 3rd round by the Bears. And now all of a sudden it's like the entire city of Nashville, it's like the biggest show in the world.
You're right.
So don't tell me they won't do it. It's not a bad idea. If you could figure out how to you got to make it TV friendly. But look at the Combine. The Combine, again, used to be sit around with your stopwatch, and now it's a huge TV event, right?
Yeah. So if you get the announcers, you get like the 2 announcers and maybe another guy in the booth talking to you about, and then go to the field like, hey, we're going to go down to Joe on the field. What we got now? Hey, we got the wide receivers and DBs. Brady, let's see how Brady goes against
see
Byard
how
on
Caleb
this.
Farley does against Mike Evans.
Yes. And
I'm there.
You're singling out these different things, but the Dolphins came to town years ago and scrimmaged the Titans and fights. Fun. It was good.
I've heard about this one.
Then the Titans,
very hot, right? Like ridiculously hot.
Yeah, then the Titans went to Illinois and to Macomb and scrimmaged the Rams. All they did was fight, and it was fantastic. It was like watching hockey in the middle of August. All they did was fight, and you take so much away from that. So Saturday night's game was like, blah. I'm going to watch this and that, and didn't really – but that's why we've come to that's why I don't think we need a third preseason game. Yeah.
So that's the thing. I'm fine, and I think we had Mark Howard in yesterday, and I think he's right. It's not far from 2 preseason games, 18 regular season games. So it's going to be like the USFL, which I love, by the way. I hope you love the USFL as much as I did.
Sure.
But and that'll be fine. I will say that the preseason games, which I've whined about forever, when we didn't have them at all last year, I'm like, gosh, actually, I wouldn't have minded 1 or 2 of those. Like there's some. Like you do see some things, and again, if you're interested in like the entire roster, which clearly you aren't, and that's fine. You're an elitist who only cares about the top 7 guys on a team. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to find out about some of those younger guys who may at some point be key players, they can be interesting. All right. Okay. My gosh, Ron on the text line keeps coming at me, so I gotta. Ron wishes Robby was there or listening. Who in the hell does Matt LaFleur think he is by telling the fans to stop cheering for them during a preseason game? And then he goes on and on about fans paying for popcorn, beer, nachos. This dude's ridiculous. What's wrong with Robby's coach? This is Ron's rant of the day. All right. I don't know this story. Are you familiar with this?
No, I'm not. But I know that I'm not a big Matt LaFleur fan.
How come?
Luke Stalker.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not. I'm not. And obviously Aaron Rodgers doesn't like him.
Yeah, you think so?
I don't think he likes him.
Well, I think Aaron
Come on, that Jeopardy question when the guy wrote that down? Come on, that was Why did you kick the field goal and not go for it?
Right, yeah.
And then
he wasn't happy with that, but I think his issue is with Gutekunst, the GM, right? I mean, I'm sure with LaFleur, he's like, all right, buddy, let's go try to win some
do what
games.
I say.
Yeah.
This is my game.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard about that.
Okay, so apparently Matt LaFleur was telling the fans to stop cheering for them. I have no idea. I'll try to look this up, Ron. We'll certainly – I mean, I can go on Insta and ask Robby as he's on It's a Small World if he'd like to weigh in on this.
He's probably dressed as a teacup, and he doesn't have time. He can't get to his phone. So let Robby have his time in Disney World. They only go every other weekend, so
that's right.
Let him have their fun down there.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I don't know anything about that. I do know that the Bears fans, I don't know, did you see this with Justin Fields? Of course, Bears coming in. There's one reason, honestly, Joe, I'm kind of excited about Saturday.
Okay.
I want to watch Justin Fields play. Probably going to play a fair amount, and I've been high on Justin Fields as an NFL QB from that first year playing at Ohio State. So Andy Dalton is QB1 there, right?
Sure.
And so, and they're terrible last week. They're getting killed by the Bills. Like, they look awful.
But Fields' comment after the game
awful.
Was kind of stupid.
Really? I thought it was a good comment. You talking about when he was asked about them booing?
No, the speed of the game. He was actually thinking college.
It's slow or whatever. Yeah, well, that was last week.
Then they show the highlight of him just getting his head knocked and his headband getting knocked off. But I get it. I mean, you got to have some kind of swagger. You're going to come in as a quarterback, and
so here's what he said. So think about the spot you're in with your Justin Fields. You're the number 1 pick. You know that you're better than Andy freaking Dalton. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of just basically being ready to play. So Andy Dalton gets booed off the field, and of course Justin Fields comes in. Everybody, this is how it always is, especially with a rookie QB.
Yeah.
So he's asked about that. So Fields says, I noticed it at courts. The fans are awesome. They also have to realize Andy's a human being, too. Andy's out there in the field right now. I really think it's kind of disrespectful to Andy, them cheering my name like that. They have to trust and coach, make sure he's making the right decisions, and cheer Andy on. That's not helping Andy play better, them cheering my name. Hey, I give him credit, because some people would not say that stuff.
Correct.
I give him credit for sticking up for Andy Dalton in that situation, whereas I think some people would be like, yeah, I'm not touching this at all because I don't want to tick off the fans. I mean, if you're Justin Fields, you got to know, like, they're going to support you all the way until you're not good enough, and then the backup becomes the most popular guy in town, which is always what happens.
What I love about that, though, is you always ask players, did you hear the boos, hear the fans? No, I never heard any. And now they
right.
Let me tell you
does that happen? Oh, I don't read anything, Joe.
Yeah, let me tell you about these pro players. They read and they listen and they see everything. When they tell you, I didn't see it, they're full of it. They're all full of it.
I think some people, the rare person is able to close himself off. I think some, but not many at all.
Yeah, but they'll tell you to a person. I haven't listened to radio in years.
Oh, I don't have any idea about that. Yeah. Well, and put yourself in their shoes. If you were, I mean, people rip us on Twitter all the time, which is fine. But I mean, like, if you were in that spot and there were media covering you and criticizing you, and they don't know exactly what was supposed to happen on a play, you're telling me you're not paying attention to that stuff?
Well, I've heard for stories for years where Mike Heimerdinger, the late offensive coordinator, would call in radio shows and off the air and talk to hosts like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. At least he did it, would call in and say, hey, here's what's going on.
Well, people I've covered who would, off the record, just help inform me on stuff. I've always appreciated it. It helps you.
Yeah, why not?
It helps you to do it. Tom Izzo, had a lot of run-ins with Tom Izzo.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. But But Tom Izzo was always a guy you could always call, text, and he would be like that, like, man, you're totally stupid on this or that. It helps.
You wish more coaches were like that?
Oh, it'd be the best. I mean, when you have open practice, open locker room after game as a college coach, and then you can talk to them whenever you want, you take some irrational anger sometimes. It's well worth it. All right, we're going to take a break at Robby and Rexrode. I don't even know what we're talking about next. Probably something awesome here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back. Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5. The Game. Let me tell you that you should go to theGameNashville.com to check out Nashville's best deals. Time to save cash fast with Nashville's best deals right now. You can purchase a $30 gift card to Central Barbecue for only $15. Central Barbecue, of course, serves up slow-smoked Memphis-style barbecue at 2 area locations, Hillsborough and Capitol View. Smoke is our sauce at Central Barbecue.
Nice.
That's right. Other deals include half off a $25 gift card for Joyland at East Nashville. Get the deals now while they last at theGameNashville.com. Welcome back to Robby and Rexrode. Joe Rexrode, Big Joe Dubin, media darling,
Nashville's
Main
media
Street,
darling.
Nashville.
Thank you.
I think you could be just in general media darling.
No, I'd like to be in the specific to Nashville's media darling.
You want to be local.
Yeah, so we have a topic here that before Google, this would have been a great radio call-in. Now you can look it up in 2 seconds, call in, pretend like you knew it all along. So we're talking about Bruce Matthews early, Oilers, Titans, great Hall of Fame, and all the games he played. You had an interview with him. The top 100 players, you said?
Yeah, he was, I wrote a piece and learned a ton about Bruce Matthews.
You just call him up
this.
and say, hey, man.
Yeah, no, he was awesome. And, Steve Waters, talked to Warren Moon for it. It was great.
Oh.
And he was number 41, I believe.
Where do we find this story, Joe?
It's on theathletic.com.
Okay. Who was number 1?
Thank you.
Yes, that's great, drop.
Oh, I love to promote myself. You know this. Yeah, we are not at 1 yet. In fact, I can find out where we are. We are right around. I think we just had Ronnie Lott. Actually, so Dan Pompei, who's a great writer, great NFL writer, has done a lot of them for us. I think he just had Dan Marino, and he was very high, but we are not to 1 yet. I assume. I don't know. I assume 1 will be.
You got a lot of stuff going over there without giving me a solid answer, man. What's happening?
Yeah, I'm just kind of just.
Be a good politician.
Blabbing. Yeah, exactly.
So the question is, what player has played in the most games in the regular season in the NFL non-kicker? George Blanda was a kicker quarterback. We're excluding him.
I mean, what was his career from
1949 to 1975? So he played when Harry Truman was president to Gerald Ford. That's how his career. So
that's incredible.
This player is a modern player. He's played in 303 games. He's retired now. I had no idea he played this many games. No idea. And I'll tell you, he's a wide receiver.
Okay, so, a modern player. I mean, I think of Jerry Rice.
You got it.
Okay.
Good job for you.
Nice.
Jerry
okay.
Rice.
There we go.
303. I had no idea. Now, Brady
played a long time.
Brady sits at 301. Quarterback record is Favre at 302. That's going to be gone in 3 weeks when he gets 2 games in. But I had no idea Jerry Rice played that long.
Yeah, I mean, I would not have come up. I mean, I automatically just am thinking quarterbacks when I think of that longevity, right?
Yeah,
if it's a non-kicker.
Sure, absolutely.
So
what's funny though is
he the greatest football player ever?
Rice? I don't like that.
No?
I don't like greatest football player ever because you can't put Jerry Rice at defensive end and you can't put Howie Long at receiver. So I go by positions.
So you have to go by position. Come on.
You can't do that.
Fun.
You can't tell me that Tom Brady's the greatest player ever. You can't. At quarterback, yes. But at safety, he's not. So to me, it's at your position.
You got a lot of lists, man.
That's fine.
You go this way.
There's a lot of players, man.
I mean, who's your top 100 long snappers? We'll
Trey
do a segment later.
Bo Brinkley. Morgan Cox. I mean, we keep going.
There you go. And by the way, we're at 16 on the NFL 100 list. So Deacon Jones, speaking of defensive ends, Deacon Jones, number 16 all-time player. Dan Pompei wrote that one too.
Who would
16.
not be
Deacon
in the league?
Jones
Would not be. He'd be fined and off a team because he did the head slap.
Oh yeah. No, there's so much that
gone.
We were just talking about this yesterday at Titans practice. I mean, even like Steve Atwater. I mean, like they had to totally sanitize his highlight reel right now. I mean, you go back and watch Steve Atwater. He used to absolutely just go at the head.
He absolutely did. I mean, he was,
and we're all like, "Oh, that's awesome!" Yes,
amazing player. That would never happen today.
No.
And and I get it. I understand all that. And you tackle with your shoulder and your arm. I get all that. You got pads on. You don't need to do it with the helmet. That's why now when I see a guy going with the helmet, I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing? It was a play the other night, I think, in the Chargers 49ers game. Same thing. Guy went hit a quarterback with his helmet. Like, what do you know better than that?
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Even before all the the CTE and all the information about concussions, I mean, you knew not to use your helmet. You should have known.
Right. But what I see now, though, what's happening in the NFL, it happened in a high school game the other night. When a referee thinks there's helmet-to-helmet contact, even though there's not, that flag comes out immediately.
Right.
And so in high school, it's tough to kind of discern because there's no replay. In the college and NFL, you could do that, and a lot of times it's overturned. And I'm glad the targeting rule was the taken out, the overruled that you could go in. It wasn't automatic targeting out of the game. I enjoyed that. They go back and review all that stuff as well. But now when you're hitting the guys with the helmet, that's just plain stupidity because you know better. You're being taught. Hopefully you're being taught better now from early age on up to junior high school, and on and on.
Well, Brennan, and of course, our sons have tangled in a rec basketball game. But Brennan, I mean, from young age, first playing tackle football a couple years ago. Great teaching by the coaches. Nolan's old Panthers, the Seahawk tackling method, which is very much obviously keeping your head out of it.
Yeah.
Doing it the right way. I mean, it's been. I mean, the emphasis on safety and at the youth level that I've seen is really good. You see sometimes people throw out these videos of like 5-year-olds smashing head. It's like, what are we doing here? But
Australian rules football, and from a stat that I saw for like 10 years, they only had one concussion. They don't. I mean, that's football without pads.
Yeah.
And the thing was, we teach you not to go. You could blow your shoulder out all day. You're tackling with your shoulder and with your body, not with your head. Your head's out of it. So they had very few concussions.
Well, I mean, look, there are people who have advocated for, hey, if you got rid of the helmets, you're actually probably going to have fewer problems because people are not going to use it as a weapon in any way, right?
Great point. By the way,
it's probably not going to happen, but
what sport has more concussions than the other sport?
Well, I know that youth soccer has a lot.
Girls soccer, that's right.
Yeah. The headers, which, and again, as a soccer dad, too, and that's something that you got to
how many kids
wait
you got?
a long time.
Good Lord. What are you? Antonio Cromartie over there?
17 kids. They all play a different sport. You haven't met my curling kid. She's incredible.
How many do you have? 3?
I got 3.
Ages?
Well, it's birthday season, so basically it's 17, 14, and 11.
Okay.
Caroline the curler.
That's right, Caroline the curler. She does have a tennis match today. Caroline. Some tennis.
So is she a senior?
Caroline is a 6th grader.
6th grader. Okay.
Yeah. Middle school tennis.
Good.
Yeah. So
she good?
Yeah. No, she's just starting out. So and it's been great. Like in a short period of time, she's really picked it up and enjoying it. I love tennis. Vastly
underrated in Nashville. There's tennis leagues everywhere. I played in the Music City Tennis Tournament.
Yeah.
As a celebrity. I know. Stay away. Back in June, and it was sold out. I mean, and I got my butt kicked. Men and women.
Celebrity tennis with Joe Dubin.
Yeah, for the Music City Tennis invitation that was here for a good cause, for the Tennessee Breast Cancer Coalition. They do fabulous work in our city. So the event was sold out, raised a lot of money for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I got destroyed by both men and women, which is fine.
That's fine. Yeah, I like tennis. My serve is weak is my problem.
You do pickleball?
I've never played pickleball. I have a cousin who thinks he's going to be like a nationally ranked. I've heard he's ranked. I don't know.
No, they're not ranking pickleball.
I don't know, man. I guess I could Google his name and see if he's on like in his list. But no, I know people like Willie Donick. I think hurt himself playing pickleball. How? I hear people get hurt playing pickleball all the time.
Yeah, they have leagues, like a lot of intense leagues around town. I have a couple friends in them.
How do you get hurt? I'm playing.
Come on, man. I can get hurt going to the water fountain.
So I guess. So you're not playing pickleball. I mean, I just don't think pickleball equates injury. I'm sure somebody will call in.
Yeah. Now you're really going to piss people off with that one. But I feel like tennis players don't like pickleball. Is that right? I mean, it's kind of like sometimes they fight for the same courts. I feel like there's a little bit of a, it's like Caddyshack, like Rodney Dangerfield's like pickleball, and Ted Knight is tennis.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly what you're saying.
All right. So I don't know what we were going to talk about with this segment. I think the Titans offensive line, but we're going to come back and get 5 things that Big Joe
football
loves about football and what he's looking forward to the most here on Robby and Rexrode ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Good job.
Welcome back, Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Joe Rexrode, Big Joe Dubin, doing the wave over here. Michelle Knezovic.
Thank you. I love that song. Hey, tease ahead, 8:30. My best friend's coming on the show.
Yeah.
Walt Wells, head coach, Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
We grew up together here in Nashville and Donaldson with the high school at McGavitt together, so it's going to be good to talk to him. And there's a lot of things about the COVID and practicing and the transfer portal and all that to go in, so we'll be able to talk to him. So I expect an athletic article soon on my best friend.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Well, you may recall, I actually, was working on potentially a story on him, and then you fell off face of the earth and told me I wasn't allowed to talk to him anymore. So, but I'm not bitter about it.
That was that 2017 UT season was something else.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, of course he was O-line coach that year. A lot of stuff went on that year.
I'll never forget, and I'll probably ask him about this, but there was one game when they were just decimated by injuries, and he said to me, he's like, I got to start guys who might not have even played at a Division II school. That he goes, I got to put him in there. He goes, I didn't recruit him, but I got to coach him. So there's no excuses that happen here that go on.
Yeah, that was a turbulent year.
It was.
But this is 2021, and Big Joe got football. So I want your top 5 things that you're most looking forward to about football.
Well, here we go. I'm a big high school and college football guy because you can talk NFL all day long. You do. So my thing is I want to see. Let's start Murfreesboro, MTSU. I want to see how good they do, getting rid of Tony Franklin, and now they get a new offensive coordinator in there. There seems to be a different kind of vibe down there now with the program. Maybe the pandemic hurt that team really bad. A lot of games were canceled. A lot of kids were in quarantine. I mean, it was the same thing for a lot of teams as well. But there's just this different, and I'm a huge Rick Stockstill fan, but there just seems to be a different vibe coming out of Murfreesboro that I haven't seen in a long time. Maybe back when Brent Stockstill, maybe 1 or 2 years with the quarterback, maybe when Byard was there back in like 2013 with Logan Kilgore as a quarterback. So I just want to see some things with MTSU. I'm looking forward to see how their season goes as well. This is no particular order. I'm going to go Vanderbilt with Clark Lee because I think that's a great hire because I think at a school like Vanderbilt, you need somebody who has bled for that school. Not literal terms of are you bleeding, but who's been there and went through the work and understands that when you run out on a Saturday and there's 14,000 fans in the stands, that's okay because you're worried about what's in front of you. So and I think the hiring of Barton Simmons to me was the best thing they could have done. That guy is exceptional at evaluating talent. And so you've got him on your staff and everybody knows Barton Simmons and obviously him and Clark Lee go way back. So I'm looking forward to see if they can have a winning season. Will they? Probably not. I don't, maybe 4 wins, maybe 4 and 8. But if they can go 6-6, who knows? I mean, things happen.
That'd be
right?
a heck of that'd be a
right
achievement.
I mean, Wake Forest 1 year won the ACC, so I mean, you can get it done there. Obviously, Vols and Heupel. I mean, that's a huge thing. That's the state school and see what's going on. And I don't have a vibe now. I mean, because I know it's been through spring practice and now the season, but I mean, their season starts in 9 days against Bowling Green on a Thursday night. And I think Thursday night football, any night game at Neyland Stadium is fantastic. If you've never been, I think you need to experience that to see what goes on. So I'm looking forward to Heupel and the Vols and see what they can get done. They have to get more. I know you guys talked about recruiting. I heard you and Robby talking about last week about Tennessee recruiting in the state. And I go back and laugh about, I think I said this on Darren Donick Chase the other day about Derek Dooley when he was a coach in Knoxville. Mm-hmm. He sent a graduate assistant over to Brentwood Academy to scout Jalen Ramsey. How does that happen, Joe? How do you do that? I mean, Derek Dooley should have been fired then in the summer before the season started. So you got to start capturing some of these in-state guys. And I know there's a lot what's going on with maybe penalties coming down the road, but you have to start getting – there's some good talent. I mean, the Wade brothers at Summit, to let them get out of the state and go to Kentucky, that hurts.
That's a big that's a big loss. That's tough for a guy coming in new, right?
It is.
Kentucky's done a great job, but it
is.
A good point.
Yes, we have.
And then,
that's right. That's right.
Graduate. But then you've got to go. You got to go get those players in Memphis who were a large and a big part of the Tennessee Vols back in the '90s and early 2000s. For those teams, they had quite a bit of success. And now those guys aren't. They're going to Oklahoma. I mean, Tennessee lost a lot of guys to Oklahoma off that team. The transfer portal.
Oh yeah.
So
Oklahoma's loving the turn of events in Nashville.
Absolutely. So
Eric
hopefully
Gray's going to be good this year. For them.
So hopefully that stopped for a while. And again, high school football, and I love every Friday night, and I tell people, go out and support schools and teams. Your boys at Nolensville, mine's at DCA, just to get out. And even if you don't have a dog in the fight, just go out and support the guys on a Friday night, because it's still it's a pure, wonderful environment. I had a boss a few years ago. She hated high school football. She goes, "Why do you like high school football?" And I said, the old question and answer, like, why do you hate it? Why do I like it? Why do you hate it?
You turned it around.
Yeah.
Oh, you turned it around.
She's like, well, I just don't, nobody care. I said, take me back to your sophomore in high school, right? Friday night, you like a guy on the team, doesn't know you exist, but you go to the game with your friends, hoping he'll see you, and you talk to him after the game. And so when I'm talking to her, I start seeing her eyes open. And then halfway through, she said, "Stop, you got me."
Wow.
I mean, that's it. I mean, it's the purity of a Friday night with the band and the concession stands and the greasy food. All that is just simply fantastic. And all that to me, and people, and I tell people, I'd rather go to a high school, college game than I would to a program. I'm different because I see the impact high school football had on me and had on a lot of different people that I grew up with and just around. Because I mean,
no doubt,
we didn't play pro football. Very few of us played college football.
Should have,
but we all played high school football together. So I love seeing the passion and getting. And I take pride. And this sounds kind of weird, knowing a lot of high school football coaches around Middle Tennessee, from all divisions, all classes, inner city, out in the country. I love these guys because they're more than football coaches. I mean, I know stories of coaches who are paying electricity bills for players. I mean, who feed them, and so there's a different creed with those guys, and they're fantastic, and they're wonderful. All right, so finally with that.
Well, that's number one. That's what I thought was going to be your number one. So just call that number one. That's number one.
And this sounds weird, but I've got this affinity for Tom Brady, and I just want to see if he can do it again and take a Bucs team to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's the star. That's the NFL. If they can go all the way again, Super Bowl's in Los Angeles. He's a California guy. That'd be his swan song, and he rides out in the sunset.
But you still wouldn't rank him over the number one kicker in NFL history or nose tackle?
I would not.
No. Okay.
Yeah, is he the greatest quarterback?
I think I think it's hard to argue against that now.
He's the best.
I've said this and gotten a lot of crap for it. That's fine. I think Peyton Manning, when Peyton Manning was at his best with the Colts, is the best quarterback I've ever seen.
Ooh, that's good.
But look. I mean, Tom Brady's doing it at this age still. And last year it didn't look good. I mean, it didn't look. He's throwing the pick six against New Orleans, and they were awful. Got blown out at home by them, and a lot of that team winning it was their pass rush. I mean, their defense was the driving force.
7-5 at one time.
Right. I mean, their defense, the way they dominated. I mean, the Chiefs couldn't block them to save their life. Right. And the way they rushed Aaron Rodgers. But still, Tom Brady was still great in those games at his age. I mean, how do you argue with him as the greatest quarterback anymore?
Do you take the Super Bowl away from Dilfer in 2000? He was not a good quarterback for the Ravens, but he was a quarterback, and that defense was fantastic.
Right. Well, and that's why it's a team sport. I mean, again, Tom Brady's got a ring because Pete Carroll, who we heard earlier on the show, great job calling in yesterday on the Floyd Tribute show. I mean, that's unfortunately for Pete Carroll, like that's going to be one of the first things people talk about is not handing the ball to Marshawn Lynch and handing Tom Brady a ring.
Amazing.
But
I do like your assessment of Manning because I haven't heard that. Usually, to me, Marino in '84.
Yeah, that's also real good.
It's hard to see a quarterback who was that good, that on fire, that precise. And they knew what he was doing. They still couldn't stop it.
He was unbelievable. Now, of course, then Joe Montana beats him badly. But, again, a much better team beats the Dolphins in the Super Bowl.
Well, it goes also to the question, I know this is a topic for sports radio, 2-minute drive, Super Bowl, who do you put in at quarterback? I mean, I'll take Joe Montana every day, all day.
I mean, hey, I can't argue against Joe Montana, but I'm happy with him, Brady. Manning.
I like that because I've never heard the Manning at the Colts is the best because there was a time because that was all overshadowed by what Brady was doing with the Patriots back then.
Right. And, of course, he finally got him. I mean, that's the thing. Those Patriots teams in particular, and, Peyton had better skill, too, for the most part.
Yeah.
The year with Brady, a couple years with Randy Moss. But, I mean, the Patriots had much better defenses with Mike Vrabel and all those guys, Rodney Harrison. And, I mean, than Peyton's teams had. I mean, way better defenses.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like quarterbacks get wins are a quarterback stat, but it is the ultimate team sport, right?
It is the ultimate
and
team
that's what
sport.
we're talking about.
And look, we're talking about Marino. Never won a championship, but yet in '84, if you Google Marino's highlights on I did it one day on YouTube. I was just to Duper and Clayton and Jim Jensen. I mean, he's getting it done back
Jensen.
I love the history of football.
Where do you come down on Dan Fouts?
Oh, that's a good one. He's up there.
Oh, man.
But you know what's great about Dan Fouts? He looks 60 when he was 25, right?
See, I thought Dan Fouts was kind of like Dan Marino before Dan Marino. Like the big statue quarterback, cannon arm. But then Marino took it to but both Hall of Famers, by the way.
I know.
Both in Canton.
Real quick before we go to the break, who's your favorite all-time player, NFL, all-time? Put the fan hat on now.
Yeah. Honestly, it's probably Barry Sanders. But I also would go back to Billy Sims, who back when ACLs, just ended your career, Billy Sims for his first few years in the league was really as good as anyone. People forget Billy Sims.
I thought you'd go Paul Newmoff.
Paul Newmoff. I have no idea who you're talking about.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Linebacker for the Lions in the 60s and the 70s, All-American at Tennessee.
Well, thank you for confirming that you're much older than me. I appreciate that. And when we come back on Robby Rexrode, we're going to talk a little, some rankings of players and some Titans of interest there here on Robby Rexrode, ESPN 102.5, The Game in the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. Third hour here, Robby and Rexrode. Joe Rexrode, Big Joe Dubin of Main Street, Nashville.
Thank you.
Michelle Knezovic. Big Joe has his second mute issue of the day. Let's keep a running count. 2-0 for you. Michelle Knezovic is here, and so Robby is in. Robby Stanley is in. He's in Orlando. He's at Disney. I don't know. I guess yesterday was Animal Kingdom. I don't know what today. Are they
What
going to do? Animal Kingdom. That's one of the.
okay.
That's one of the.
You mumbled. I thought you said something else. That's all right.
I don't want to know what you thought I said, but so Animal Kingdom, Epcot. You got the Magic Kingdom is the main.
Have you been to Disney World?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes. I've been. We went. Let's see. When did we go last time? See, it's always like you do things around work trips. So, it was like Michigan State was in like that Orlando tournament. So we all went down.
Nice.
And so that would have been, Caroline would have been about 4 then, probably. Yeah. And like when we were done with that just one day, but it was like.
Count your steps, 200,000 steps.
It's going to be a while before we come back here.
Well, let me tell you this.
It was good. But
they used to have a thing where you get media passes at Disney World. You get like 4, 6, maybe 8. I mean, you get media passes. So I have it on pretty good authority that a former employee that used to work here ruined that for a lot of people.
Really?
Because he asked media passes, abused the privilege, and they stopped doing that. And it was right at the same time he was asking for passes, and so a little birdie told me that he had something to do with probably there was a couple of people that were abusing their privileges of media passes.
You going to name names or no?
No, I'll tell you off air. You won't know who he is. He's been going here for a while.
Okay.
He was not a host, but he worked here.
No, interesting. All right. Well, I can't wait. I mean, I want to go right to the break because I'm going to forget it by the time we get to the break. So on the text line, by the way, join the conversation. 737-1025. 615-737-1025. I'm all discombobulated. So Ryan Porth, is obviously runs the station, and so he threw in some ideas. So I for the show, and so when I saw this idea, I assumed we were talking, like the top 100 list the players are voting on, right?
Right.
For example, Derrick Henry yesterday at his press conference was asked, hey, what does it mean to be in the top 10? Because Derrick Henry, and I don't know when the top 10 is going to be listed. I mean, they've been stretching this out for like a month.
Right.
But the NFL.com top 10. So Derrick Henry hasn't been listed yet. So either he's in the top 10 or he's like the biggest snub ever. So, he said, it's an honor to be respected by your peers. But so I assumed that's what we were talking about. So Porth put this in. But this list of top 100 is just by Pete Prisco. And he's got Derrick Henry number 11. And he's got Julio Jones number 28. Meanwhile, I think the more interesting thing than Pete Prisco's list of top 100 players, which isn't that interesting to me, is that Pete Prisco blocked you on Twitter.
He did. Years ago, blocked me on Twitter.
And why is that?
You like to have fun on Twitter, and he does not like to have fun. He takes everything. As we've told you, Twitter is not real life. All right? It's not real life. So he got mad one time he was evaluating a Jaguar player, and I said something probably stupid.
You say like, oh, did you outrun the Jaguar?
Something,
or did you buy a Jaguar?
He's a short guy. Something like, oh, could he see you over the bench? Something like that. So he blocked me immediately. And I was like, all right, well, that's another one off the list,
Are you still trolling Adam Schefter like on
every time?
What does it sources say?
Yeah, according to, so we had Frank Caliendo on this very station, this very studio, and he did an Adam Schefter impression. And he says, every time you do an impression of Adam Schefter, according to my sources. And so he did it. I thought we were talking to Schefter. I mean, he did it perfectly. Everything was according to my sources, and that's all he did. So, yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
But there's a specific line that you're always saying to Schefter. What is it? I'm forgetting it.
I do Ian Rappaport. Every time he tweets, I always write, that's a rap. I mean, it's just so stupid.
No, but there's something about Schefter and Swords, right?
I've got an NFL insider. My friend that works for, you work for The Athletic. He works for The Unathletic.
Yeah.
You didn't find that funny, but that's
that was good. No, I liked it. I like your.
We just need to laugh more, and that's it, And so Piscro got upset and mad and blocked me on Twitter. He joins a long list of people that have done that, including Vince Young. Back in the day. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's funny. Bob Saget had blocked me, and I got Bob Saget on the radio, and I said, "Can you unblock me?" And he looked me up. He's like, I don't know who you are, but yeah, you're blocked. So he unblocked me. And so Bob Saget and I became buddies.
Was there at least like you were trolling him for some random thing?
It was, I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but I think I was tagged with like 8 different people because he just blocked everybody.
Wow.
As part of that. So
amazing. I'm assuming, did Deion Lewis block you? Because he blocked me and everybody else.
He did.
He did. Good.
He did block
Good for
me.
you.
Because when he left here and got.
You're not part of Nashville media unless Deion Lewis blocked you on Twitter.
Who did he sign with when he left here?
Jeez. It's bad that I don't remember.
Was it the Browns?
I don't
remember.
So. I don't think it was the Browns. Now, he's, of course, he just retired.
That's right. He did retire.
So he was. You see, you just grind this show to a halt, Joe.
Well, we got
making me try to
him.
remember something that happened. Yeah, that's right. The Giants. He was with the Giants last year.
The Giants, yeah. So he blocked you.
Yep.
So somebody else who blocked people on Twitter was James Franklin. When he left Nashville, he blocked everybody. So he blocked me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Just across the board, anybody in Nashville media, he's blocking.
He blocked a lot of people. Blocked me. So what was funny, in 2016, I became an AP Top 25 voter, and I got unblocked by James Franklin.
How about that?
That guy's got a rhyme and a reason, and then he unblocked me, and that was it. That was fine. I laughed at that.
That's that's very, very interesting. Yeah, James Franklin, David Ubben and I did this. You talked about it a little bit earlier, but we did a piece and a lot. We've done this at the Athletic in a lot of states, talking to high school coaches around the state, giving them anonymity. Speak frankly. What did you see at Tennessee?
Right.
What have you seen at Vanderbilt? All this stuff. And one of the things I think that maybe the most surprising of it was how many coaches were like, James Franklin was the best. Oh, I love that guy. And because obviously James Franklin rubs some people the wrong way. He's very effective. I mean, he's a good coach, good recruiter.
He is.
But I guess I wouldn't have expected necessarily for and again, I mean, we quoted 8 coaches because, in the state of Tennessee, there aren't that many high schools that turn out that many Power 5 players. Like in the state of Florida, you could have gone to 60 different high schools, right? So, you got a pretty limited selection, but it was pretty much several people were brought him up, James Franklin was amazing.
He was.
Well, no kidding. But obviously, the guy knows how to go into a school and talk to coaches and talk to kids, and that's a huge part of that job.
Think about him going into Philadelphia, talking to a single mom who's got a kid who's a good player. What he's going to tell her is going to sell that kid and that mom to go to Penn State. I saw it here. He would walk through the state football championship game in Cookeville. Coaches were not allowed in the media center. He comes walking through. And they're like, we got to get him out of here. I'm like, I don't have to do anything. He come through and shaking everybody's hand and all that. There was a rhyme and a reason to what he was doing, and it worked. He got Vanderbilt to 3 different bowl games. 3 years he was here, and now he's doing it. I love because every year at Penn State's he's on the hot seat. I'm like, well, he's on the hot seat. We took a program that when Bill O'Brien left was barely breathing, and now it gets him to the Rose Bowl and does they won the Big Ten. He's become a force in college football. And so I absolutely see when these coaches say how great he was coming in, I see that. What'd they say about how far does this thing go back?
Well, it depends on the coach. So basically the opening question was, in your tenure, who was the best recruiter? And there was a coach who was John Chavis was amazing, right? So, there's some people who go back to Fulmer and some who don't. There was some very unkind words about Pruitt, which again, and I got in this argument with Jared, who looked at this this is one of those, the new coach is good, the old coach is bad. But the point being, when Pruitt started, you could have found on Rivals or 24/7 writing about recruiting, Pruitt clearly de-emphasized the state compared to Butch.
Sure.
So again, that doesn't mean you're not going to win. If you go get Henry To'oTo'o and a bunch of other studs out of other places, and you can win.
Right.
You can't just recruit Tennessee at UT and win. You cannot. There is no way. You agree?
I totally agree.
You have to get into Georgia, and Pruitt did. But the point being, Butch, actually, there were some people who were very high on what Butch did as a coach of the state. Now, that's kind of a mixed opinion. I think it depends on the school and the coach. But Pruitt definitely was more – I think he was less touchy-feely, which, again, it doesn't mean that's bad. You can win. He just didn't win.
Right.
And Heupel, I think, is forced to be what people are saying, which is he's been Let's build the relationship. He's doing it how he should do it.
Exactly.
So, again, you can praise him for that, which is fine, but that's not the point. He has to do that.
He does.
There's no, like, if you didn't do that, if you're Josh Heupel and try to build relationships with every coach of the state, whether they have a player you're interested in or not,
Yeah.
I think you're doing a terrible job. Like you said, Dooley. I mean, there was a coach who was like, I never saw Dooley one time.
Right.
And it's true, right? I mean, that's all I've ever heard is Dooley didn't even. He didn't recruit.
Didn't. I mean, you got Jalen Ramsey in your backyard. You need to go after him until it's way too late. Here's the thing now is, for the last couple of years, when guys in the state, 4 and 5 stars commit, Tennessee's not even in their top 5. So now you got to get Tennessee in that top 5. And then you work from there. Maybe you get a couple of guys here and there and start building that program back. But for years, there were guys in the top 4 picking their final 5 schools. Tennessee wasn't even mentioned. There was no thought of them going to Tennessee. So if you can get Tennessee in the top 5, and then work your way up and go and go on. But I think that's a fascinating, great article to see who these coaches liked and didn't like coming through their schools.
Yeah, and so for another name that just people are bringing up on their own, not asked about it, but several coaches brought up Alex Golish. Now he's the new OC at Tennessee, and I mean media day. Immediately I was like, man, this guy's good. This
Right.
guy's real good, and obviously he's translating that to recruiting. Hey, they got Again, Kentucky, I mean, they are in here. Yeah, Michelle raising the roof in there. I mean, Stoops has done a great job.
Oh, yeah.
I never thought Kentucky football would be this consistently solid, but that he's done a great job. That's a problem now.
It is.
In this state.
When you got a good player in Dixon County from 2 years ago, got the Wade brothers at Summit that take him out of there. It's funny, I go back when Saban came to Bama in 07, in 08, he came and recruited Dante Hightower at Marshall County. And they said at practice, Saban just shows up, like walks on the field and starts talking to the coach and then talks to Hightower. And this is before Bama hit it, before he really took off. And you just see, you're sitting there and here comes a Saban walking in on you. I mean, that's strong. And then here comes a Heupel. I mean, everybody wants to play at Alabama. But everybody ain't going to play at Alabama. So there's some things going to fall off the tree, some players you got to get. Tennessee's got to get those players.
Absolutely. All right. When we come back, Big Joe is going to do a full breakdown of all of the lower-level Preds prospects in the organization.
Thank you.
Just kidding. I actually don't know what we're going to talk about. We will be back on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Nashville SC fans, join ESPN 94.9 Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. for NSC Backstage featuring Nashville SC players and coaches. Watch the show online via 102.5 The Game's Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and theGameNashville.com. NSC Backstage brought to you by Camarena Tequila, the official tequila of Nashville SC. And let me just say, Michelle, I'd like to apologize because, look, it's only Tuesday. This week is just, me trying to manage this show. Oh, my goodness. So, look, I blew it, and I was supposed to do this at the top of the hour, but we're going to do it now. We can do it now?
Yeah, we're going to do it
because
now.
this freaking concert, Joe, Alice Cooper.
Yeah, okay.
At Ascend with special guest Ace Frehley.
Ace Frehley.
It's Frehley's Comet, man. He had an album called Frehley's Comet. I'm calling him Ace Frehley. I want people to weigh in on this. I think I'm right. You're telling me that's Ace Frehley? I think you're totally wrong.
Ace Frehley.
I'm going to bet you. How much you want to bet right now?
I have 9
You call yourself
mints.
a Kiss fan.
I have 9 mints over here. I'll give you 9 mints.
Okay. You bet. I'll bet you 3 of those mints. You can have my AHA sparkling water.
Oh, okay. I like that. What kind is that? Grapefruit?
It's a nice orange grapefruit.
Oh.
It is Ace Frehley, man. Ace Frehley? What were you doing in the 70s?
I thought it was Ace Frehley. I think I'm correct
Dude,
on that.
I can't wait to get these. I actually need the mints. So, here's the ticket giveaway. You've won a... I just said you've won a pair of tickets. No, you haven't, because you have to win it by being the 5th caller. And then when you are the 5th caller, I will tell you that you've won a pair of tickets to see Alice Cooper with special guest Ace Frehley. Please, someone on the text line or on Twitter.
It's Ace Frehley.
Dude.
Give me an Alice. Do you know an Alice Cooper song?
What?
Come on, give me one. Just one.
School's out for summer?
Attaboy.
No more Mr. Nice Guy?
Like, okay.
Come on.
You win. Yeah,
Okay.
I got you. Just make sure you know what you're talking about.
My goodness. I'm not as old as you. Don't worry. Okay, come on. Let me see here. All right, the text line. I'm counting on the text line here. Okay, Dennis on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com, says, I've always heard it pronounced Freely. You're blocked, Dennis. You're blocked. Oh, yeah, did he wave back? That's your...
I love that.
That's your when
that's
you
mine.
wave a player. I think that's what it is. When Schefter says a player was waved.
And I do it to Jimmy
Did he
White
wave
too,
back?
and I feel bad because I love Jim, and then so I don't have to. He's got to deal with my nonsense when I do that, and so when others try to steal that, and I appreciate everybody on the Twitter world when people try to do that and they say, "Hey, give credit to Big Joe for that," because it's my credit. That's me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really upset, guys. It's Ace Frehley.
I've never heard Ace Frehley.
And actually, I really don't want to give up this sparkling water. If I have to, I'm going to be very upset.
I'm looking. Well, grapefruit's awful.
Yeah?
So grapefruit is like the punter of the drink world. It's like, whatever.
Well, I don't like grapefruit juice on its own. I really don't like grapefruit.
No.
But within this, it's mixed with orange. So a little bit of that acidity.
Okay.
But it's kind of calmed down.
And that's a word I didn't think I would hear today.
Acidity. Yeah. This is acid sports radio is what we've got going on here. Okay, Chris in Nashville. Rexrode is correct. Thank you, Chris. And you are not blocked.
Block him.
Sean says, no, you're wrong, Sean. He says Freely. Come on.
But we know who you're talking about.
Dude.
Ace Frehley.
You guys are, Donovan from Wisconsin, it's Frehley. Ace Frehley. All right.
That doesn't make that even sound. That sounds wrong. That sounds like some guy who runs the market down the street. Hey, go down there and check with Ace Frehley. I'm like, okay. But, hey, I got the new Ace Frehley album. Oh, you do? Heck yeah, man. Play it.
All right. You know what?
Go to Google now and figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going to Google it. Ace Frehley. All right, we're gonna get this. We are gonna get this worked out.
I love the fact that the consternation is.
I should start drinking this, so in case I'm actually wrong,
the consternation is
just
palpable.
Finish my drink for me.
You can feel that the upset in the air. It's okay. You'll get through this.
I'm very
You ever been
upset.
to a Kiss concert?
I have not been. I'm actually really not a huge Kiss fan. Not gonna lie. I would go to. I go to an Alice Cooper concert though.
I would go that. I'd go see all of those. But you didn't go to a Kiss concert. I mean, Paul Stanley's almost 70.
Yeah. Have you been to a Kiss concert?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Like what year?
04 was the last one I went to, and the Poison opened for him.
Did you go like at any time near their prime at all?
No, because that was like the 70s, and I was young.
You were too young to go to concerts?
Do you know what,
Dude, I've read some of your stuff about 70s concerts you attended. Come on.
Do you know what band that gave it away? What band Kiss found? They discovered Van Halen.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the show did.
Who'd they discover? Eddie
and his brother, and then
Eddie and Alex.
Yep, and along comes David Lee Roth, and the rest is history.
Okay. Well, do we have a winner? Michelle says we have a winner.
We do have a winner. I already assigned him his tickets.
Nice.
Our winner is... Sorry, I'm not good with names.
Please be Carroll on Rexrode. Please.
First concert, Alice Cooper.
Brandon, I can't pronounce the last name.
Did Brandon say it's Ace Frehley and not Ace Frehley?
No, he didn't comment on that.
You needed to ask him. By the way, Carolina's actual first concert, for real, was Bridgestone Arena, Tears for Fears, Hall & Oates. Rockin', man.
Let me tell you what. Tears for Fears, that show, number one on my list all time.
Really?
I'm not kidding you.
From what year?
That show. 2017.
They were great.
They were absolutely and that's also the show where Daryl Hall was on another planet, and then John Oates had some words with him during the show, like, get your act together, pal. This is my hometown.
See, so Tears for Fears played first, and they were awesome.
Incredible. And
Caroline, who, again, at that time you're talking about a 7-year-old, very excited to go to her first concert, but like 5 songs into Hall & Oates, she started to fall asleep. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go home early. So I missed that part.
Yeah. So
interesting.
You did, it was early on because he was awful. And then there was a part of the show where Oates comes over and talks to him. They weren't playing music, and he was adamant. And I was thinking, I'm good at body language.
Yeah.
Body language is good. And Oates just ripped him apart. Said, this is basically my hometown. Get your act together. I'm sure he didn't say act, but get it done. Also,
I feel like
all that was during
Oates could beat him up pretty soundly, don't you think?
It's a mustache, man.
Well, he's a big dude.
Mustache.
He's a big dude.
You don't do that. 2 things real quick. That was also during the Preds Stanley Cup run.
Yep.
We had like a night off, and so that happened to fit in perfectly there. And then so I had John, when I did the Today in Nashville show, I had John Oates on one day. And I said, the song from Step Brothers, you make, my best friend, whatever.
You make my dreams come true.
Yeah. We were laughing. And he said, let me tell you what, that movie and that song helped me get my place on West End. And he smiled. And I didn't know if that was a smile like, ha-ha, or a smile like, ha-ha. And so I was like, man, this is great. Because that song put them back up on the chart again.
Royalties are good.
With streaming and everything else. And so he goes, yeah, I should send Will Ferrell a thank you note. I was like, man, that's awesome. Yeah.
See, I mean, that's what I'm hoping Bowman, Warner, Overdrive T-shirts will do for me someday. On the Titans, because we haven't talked Titans in a while. And I know we got Walt Wells coming up here at the bottom of the hour. The Titans this week, okay, they've got a practice today. Obviously, there will be no Vrabel. As far as we know, there will be no Vrabel. This week, like you said, he could get 2 negatives in a row in 48 hours and be back, but it's probably a 10-day absence. Most interested, the thing you're most interested in about this team heading into this preseason game, understanding it's a preseason game, but there's still guys, that are not just trying to make the team, but trying to, start during the season. I mean, Caleb Farley and Elijah Molden, I thought, made big steps last Saturday.
Do you put a Tannehill in if you don't have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones? I say no.
Yeah, I will say, though, that, again, I think that right now Marcus Johnson and Chester Rogers, probably I think more likely Marcus Johnson, is a guy who could be the third receiver. I mean, Josh Reynolds, again, was a little bit banged up yesterday. He, Achilles stuff just doesn't sound good. It just never sounds good. And yesterday, they were looking at him again. Now, he had the last week he's run well, but right now I can't assume he's going to be the 3. Also, you still have Ferkser out there and their tight ends. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting Tannehill out for a couple series.
Hold on, man.
Now, I think another part of that answer is who's on the offensive line. Are any of those guys coming back? Maybe you don't put them out there behind the all-reserve offensive line.
Chester Rogers, you know his history?
Yeah.
He's an actor. He played Billy D. Williams in a movie called Constellation. I'm already a huge fan. Chester Rogers, actor, 10 years old. Trey Rogers, his first movie, Constellation, filmed in his hometown of Huntsville. Put a younger version of Billy D. Williams.
You're talking about the same Chester Rogers.
I'm looking at Wikipedia, which I know.
Which is always accurate.
But they wouldn't put that in there. Come on.
No, that's pretty cool. Okay.
There you go. There's your little article today. Thank you so
my
much.
little article. All right. I'll write a little article about that for you.
Chester Rogers. I didn't even hear of that guy until an hour and a half ago.
He was cast in Everybody Hates Chris, according to this. No kidding. Well, who knew?
See, this would be a story if we did not have a pandemic that you could go in the locker room and take him aside and have fun with him and all that other stuff. And now that's the problem, is that you got a nice little story and you're on Zoom and you got to, hey, can all the other reporters get off Zoom for 2 minutes while I have this exclusive?
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, they have ditched Zoom, which I very much appreciate, but it's different. Like they've got like a fence line now. It's almost like a mixed zone in the Olympics. So they bring guys at the same time, so you can go over here and talk to this player or this player, So in
like a
theory,
petting zoo? Well, is it a petting? You got a petting zoo at the Titans.
There's no exchange of food or drink, as far as I know. But so it's better than Zoom, but yeah, it's totally different than still just being able to go in there for a half hour live room, being able to talk to whoever about whatever.
Yeah.
It's still sort of like, okay, I'm going to ask you about your child acting, and then there's still 3 other people. And by the way, we're talking about it on the radio, so now thanks. We've totally blown the story. Awesome. All right, and we're going to be right back with Walt Wells here on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102 at the game. This Friday, it's your chance to participate in the Nashville SC Pick to Click, brought to you by Camarena Tequila. If you guess correctly which player scores a goal in the game this Saturday, you win a prize pack and a 4-pack of tickets to an upcoming Nashville SC home game. Participate this Friday morning. Excuse me. At 9:45, where the listeners are crushing us. And also, speaking of crushing, there's a great song that Michelle just played from Hall & Oates.
It is. All right, go ahead and before we bring on Walt Wells, get your little thing out of the way.
No, we'll do. No, I'm gonna soak this in. We can We can wait.
Okay.
We can wait. I mean, this probably needs 2 segments
for
me to dance around the studio on you. But yeah, no, let's bring in Walt Wells. Walt Wells, Eastern Kentucky head coach, longtime friend of Joe Dubin. Walt, how are you?
I'm doing great. How y'all doing this morning?
We're good. Jamming out some Hall & Oates.
I heard it. I wouldn't expect anything else, anything less.
So when you and Joe were growing up together, what kind of stuff were you guys rocking out to?
Well, I'd say Hall & Oates is one of them.
That's right.
I think we listened to a little bit of everything. You know, I guess our mainstay once we got out of high school probably was Jimmy Buffett there for a long time.
It was.
Nice.
But we rocked out to everything. I mean, whatever was on the radio, you know, you didn't have the phone to listen to everything and download all that stuff. You just kind of listened to whatever they played.
And then we went down the country music hall in the early 90s when it was country music because we worked at a country bar together, so we kind of got that pumped in our veins.
We got pumped in the veins. I think we were at what taping were we of the Garth Brooks on NBC?
That's right. We drove down to Dallas to see him.
Drove down to Dallas.
Wow.
That's right.
Yep, slept the whole way. And
I remember I laid in the back of the car with one of them TVs that you could, pick up games on the antenna and stuff, and ended up watching the Tennessee-Arkansas game whatever year that was.
That was 93.
Arkansas.
That's right.
Yeah,
we also,
93.
and we had the Miami-Colorado game on in the back of the car driving back home. So it was good times.
Wow.
Hey, I tell people that when I do guest radio that I have to bring you on, so that just people know the fact that when I'm doing a guest on the radio that Walt Wells has to come on. All right, so Walt, let me ask you this. I know we talk all the time. How was things this year coaching? Then last was your first year at Eastern. You barely got to know your team. Pandemic hits. Now you get to be with the guys, be around them, and I know you want to love on them, you want to yell at them, you want to lift them up. How is it different this year than last year?
Well, I think, the ones that were here, that have been here for 2 years and the ones that we've recruited, we've gotten to know a lot better. And then the ones that we just brought in, it's the same thing. With this transfer portal, it changes your team every year anyway. And so you have to do a good job of being able to get to know them. So I just had the D-line over this past Sunday, when we had a day off and they get to swim, and I cooked for them, and just a chance for them to see me as a father and a husband in my home, and have them in our home and hang out with my wife and KJ. Of course, my daughter's old enough now; she's not going to come around, but it's just a chance to get to know who they are as people, not just as a 4-eye or a nose guard or a outside backer or whatever. You realize that part's important, but if you don't have the other part, then it's hard to get people to trust you. And so for us, that's what we've been trying to do all year. And fortunately, with even though we were in mask mandates and different things, we were still able to get out and be around each other, which was really good.
Talking to Walt Wells, head football coach at Eastern Kentucky, grew up here in Nashville, went to McGavick High School with me. All right, so let's talk about the transfer portal. I mean, how insane, this wasn't around 3 or 4 years ago. How insane is that portal now? I mean, do you have guys reaching out to you? Is there a website you check the portal every day? How does this work?
It's a little bit of everything. We have a company that we use for our recruiting. Actually, Tom Luganbill, who was a quarterback here at Eastern back in the day, is in on this, and they do a great job of following the portal. Wow. And so among high school players too, and so it's for everything for us all over the nation, and we're fortunate enough to have that, and so we can go in daily and it's updated and check it out and see. Obviously, some of the guys we recruited when we were at other places and different things like that. The portal is it is what it is, and everybody can complain or be happy about it. I got here in December of 2019, so last year, obviously going through the pandemic and everything, we've been able to flip our roster just about 60 to 70 people. And that's pretty quick in that amount of time. And so, when you look at it that way, I don't know if that's good or bad, because we had guys hit the portal. We had guys opt out. We had guys do all the things that everybody else is experiencing. And it just, the piece we were talking about before about getting to know your team, that's what's so important about it, because it's still, every kid that goes in the portal thinks the next stop is where he's going to go and be the greatest thing ever. And whether it's up, down, or in between. And sometimes it just doesn't work that way. I mean, we've had guys come here and are frustrated because they're coming from Power 5 schools and played at Power 5 schools, and frustrated because they're like, well, I'm not doing what I want to do. And I'm like, well, what's that? Well, I thought I'd just come here and dominate. I'm like, yeah, we got good football players too. It ain't that easy, and so I think the portal as it grows is going to change. There's still probably 9,000 to 10,000 people still in the portal, and that don't have homes.
Yeah.
The kids that just, some of them probably are graduating. There's no numbers on how they've have they graduated and gone in the portal. We had a guy leave us in February or January, I can't remember, and he just went in the portal yesterday. And, he graduated. He, was beginning his life, and I think he decided he wants to play football again. So, and that's okay. I mean, that's the progression of life. And, what we can either gripe about it or move on about it. And we were fortunate. We picked up some good guys in the portal. I think one of the ones that you guys will know is John Hewitt, who played at Davidson Academy for another McGavitt guy, and then went to Purdue. Was unhappy there. I don't know about with what, particular, doesn't matter, and decided we went into the recruiting of him. He's good friends with Malik Owens, who's also from Nashville, who's one of our tight ends, who played at Stratford, and he's here, and he's going to make an impact on our team.
So, Walt, I did want to get your perspective. We were talking earlier on the show about Tennessee, UT, recruiting in this state, going through the different coaching staffs, and how Kentucky, in particular, is a program that has come into Tennessee and done very well. And, of course, you have experienced very recently with both of those programs. You were Butch's offensive line coach 2017. You were at Kentucky in 18 and 19. What is your thought on just where Tennessee is, and in particular what Kentucky has done under Stoops to really build a foundation and be, for me, more consistently solid than I would have probably predicted Kentucky football could get?
Well, I think where Tennessee's at, and being away from that program for so long, you kind of follow it from afar. I think with the new staff coming in there, for them, just probably looking at their staff, it's all about building the relationships in the state of Tennessee, and they just have to continue to do that. And recruiting is a hard thing, especially in the SEC. And I don't think the average person really understands, and I don't mean that in any disrespect to anybody. I don't think that knows how many different things pull at a kid, and how many different people pull at a kid, and how hard it is to figure all that out and be on top of that. It is a 24/7 job. And, I think the Tennessee coaching staff, I don't even know if I know anybody on that staff. Willie Martinez, and I don't know if he's recruiting Tennessee or not. But, I think they just got to develop those relationships that will help them. When I went to Kentucky really wasn't into Tennessee that much. And, and that was part of my situation with John Schlarman, who was unfortunately no longer with us and was one of the best coaches I've ever worked with in my life. He couldn't get out and recruit and do some things. So that left the spot open for somebody. And I was fortunate enough that Mark thought enough of me to put me out on the road and put me in Tennessee and get them started in Tennessee. And so I think you saw that with Trayvon Ripka and some of the other kids, the Wade kids we got started on, and some of the other ones that are out there. It's a 3.5 to 4 hour drive, from Middle Tennessee to Lexington. Lexington's a great town. Kentucky has had, the kids in Tennessee can see the success Kentucky's had with, the 10-win season in 18, the 9-win season in 19. And then if you really look at the SEC record they had, you can see it in that from last year. So I think they understand that, Kentucky's playing good football. I'll always say Mark Stoops is one of the best people and coaches that I've met in this profession too, because and Butch was really good to me. And I know that's not popular in Middle Tennessee and in the state of Tennessee probably still, but Butch was really, really good to me. And he's a good person. And, those two guys did a lot of things in the state to develop those relationships. And now Stephen Clinkscales kind of took over when I left, and Clink now is at Michigan. So
right.
I think you'll see Michigan having a presence down in there. Obviously with the young man that just left from Ravenwood and went up there, and I think you'll see more because Clink is he works his tail off at it. And so he's a good football coach and a good person. But Stoops is a good man and a good coach, and he'll continue to have success because of the culture he's built in Lexington.
But let's look at this. Let's go back. You've been recruiting this area. I mean, I know you went Western Kentucky and then on to South Florida and, Tennessee now, Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky. But you've been recruiting Middle Tennessee heavy for a long time. I may go back to a guy like Cameron Clemens, who you pulled out of Wilson Central, who now coaches for the Raiders. I mean, there's always talent here that you've gone out and found where now other colleges – now, Walt, are discovering, hey, there's some talent in Middleton. There's not a lot of 4 and 5 stars, but there's some good 2 and 3 stars that could really contribute on the collegiate level, and you've found that now for years.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what you have to do. You have to understand, you can go in and see they have the traits, all right? Are they tall enough, long enough, fast enough? Those are all the things you look for, the tangibles. The intangibles, are they good enough students to good students? Are they good people? Have they made some mistakes and they're knucklehead mistakes, or are they a person that's going to continually make mistakes? And that's where your relationships come in helping the development of the young men. And the biggest thing, it's with the high school coaches. It's with all the other people that are involved in these kids' lives nowadays. Like over at OTA, Chavez Job. I coached Chavez in my first job at Cumberland University, and Chavez, trained Trayvon Ripka. So we had some ends there.
Nice.
He trained Zion Logue, who we were originally recruiting at Tennessee before we got let go and fired, and he went to Georgia. So you've got to know the high school coaches. You've got to have great relationships with them, but you got to have great relationships with everybody because it's so important to have those relationships and build that. And you're right. I mean, Nashville is huge now. I mean, let's just be honest. But the difference in Nashville when I started recruiting and now is, let's be honest, Joe. Everybody in McGavitt grew up, cheering for the Vols 90%, right?
Yep.
Everybody at all the other schools cheered for the Vols. Well, these people aren't growing up in the state; they're moving to the state, so their affinity is to anybody. I mean, they love anybody and everybody, and so Nashville's a great place to get down in there, and you'll pull you out some good players and. They're not really pigeonholed to any just one position. Like you can go down to Florida and you go down to South Florida and you're going to find, all the rabbit chasers and all the speed that you want and all that stuff. But you may not find that, all the offensive linemen you're looking for. So you may have to go somewhere else to find some of that. Just, places get a little pigeonholed sometimes, and Nashville hadn't gotten that way yet. And I think it's because of the newness of everything and how recruiting has changed.
Great point. Before we let you go, one of my favorite stories that you've done and seen a lot in college football was the Cam Newton story in 2007 when Western Kentucky went down to play Florida. Tebow was his second year down there. And Cam Newton, take me back when you saw Cam Newton come on the field. I love this story.
Well, I mean, I didn't realize – I knew Tim Tebow was making his first start against us, and we're just moving up into 1A at that time. And so I'm standing there with my college roommate, Chris Keelan, and we're sitting there looking, and I looked at him, and I won't say exactly what I said, but I was like, holy cow, look at that. That's got to be Carlos Dunlap. I got to block him today. I mean, are you kidding me? And then he walks over there and he gets the ball and he starts taking snaps and throwing the ball. And I'm like, and he looks at me and goes, "Hey, dummy, that's Cam Newton." And I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, I hope he don't play. Of course he did. But, our claim to fame that game was we did two things good on offense the whole day. We ran right down the field and went for it on fourth down, and David Wolke out of Smyrna got smoked, and we lost him for the rest of the game. And then we had a quick fire field goal at the end of the half to make sure we didn't get shut out. And then at the end, probably the best call I made all day was the head coach comes in, and we're in the locker room on a lightning break. And Mike Dietzel was the defensive coordinator, and I was the offensive coordinator. And we're sitting there, and Mike goes, me and Mike are talking, and we're like, man, let's just pack up and leave, I mean, we're down 40-some-odd points with 6 minutes to go, and our head coach was young at the time. He comes in and goes, "What do y'all think? I want to play it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And finally the AD comes in and says, "We're going to leave, guys." And we're like, thank God.
and that's now the AD.
So my vote was to leave because I was like, hey, we got a game we can win next week. We need to go get ready and try to win that game. And so that was a lot of fun.
Was that is that Ross Bjork? Was Ross Bjork the AD?
No, that was Wood Selig over at ODU.
Okay. All right.
So
good time.
Good stuff.
Ross came in with Willie Taggart.
Okay, I remember that. That's good. Hey, man, I love you. I think the world of you. Best of luck. First game is Western Carolina. I'm coming up to the Louisville game at Papa John's Stadium. I think you guys got a chance to shock some folks in that game. So I will see you in Louisville in a couple weeks.
Called shot.
All right, look forward to it. Appreciate y'all having me on. Love you, brother. Take care of Nashville for me.
Will do. Thank you.
Walt Wells, Eastern Kentucky football coach. We'll get some Big Joe stories off the air now, some not fit for the air, and we'll be back on Robby and Rexrode. Thanks a lot, Walt.
Good times.
Welcome back, Robby and Rexrode. We just had Walt Wells. He's a Kentucky football coach. Want to thank him. And there's a little, what the heck are the parrot heads? So you and Walt were parrot heads? Is that what they're called, Jimmy Buffett?
No. We just like Buffett. We didn't get caught up in the whole pop culture parrot. We just really like Jimmy Buffett. Went to a lot of the places. We had an epic spring break.
That makes you a parrot head. That's fine.
So I went to 8 spring breaks, and Walt went with me on all 8 spring breaks that we did. So we had a late start in life. So we've been through a lot. And so to see the success he's had at that level, well respected, and it makes me happy.
Yeah, no, it's good for him, and hopefully he'll get it rolling at Eastern Kentucky. If he happens to be listening, he may be a little bit disappointed in you though, because let me see if I can figure this out.
Get it off your chest.
Found Kiss legend Paul Ace Fraley, and I'm looking at him on the screen on YouTube, Q104.3, some New York station, and they had him in the studio, and they asked him, hey, what is your name? Now, listen carefully.
You're so happy.
No, the name we know you by. My professional name is Ace Fraley.
Yay! Now we know how to pronounce it.
Okay. Boom. So all of you on the text line who were trying to tell me that it's Ace Freely, you're blocked. Also, okay, Twitter. Let me go to Twitter.
I told you, Twitter's not real
Well,
life.
whatever, okay?
You get your blood pressure up over these Twitter people.
Tomp Dog, Tomp Dog.
Now you're validating him.
This is what he says. Tell me you don't know anything about Kiss without saying you don't know anything about Kiss. Joe pronounces Ace Fraley. So apparently Tomp Dog thought that you were right, but no, you know nothing. You're blocked too, Tomp Dog. And thank you, Ace Fraley, for pronouncing your name for me. And thank you, Joe, because now I have these 3 delicious mints. And I'm very excited about that.
Do you block people on Twitter?
I don't. I don't much. In fact, I haven't blocked someone on Twitter in years. And to me, when you do that, then that gives them, that's like a little trophy for the Twitter troll.
Yeah, you're
because
right.
the little Twitter troll then is like, ooh, look, blocked. I got blocked by this person, whatever. So muting is amazing. I will spread the gospel on muting as much as I can. I mean, they have no idea. And I don't know what they're saying. I mean, look, there's a big, conglomerate of, COVID is fake people who I just mute. I just mute them. I don't want to hear it anymore. Then, go talk amongst yourselves or whatever, or other dumb crap that you get on Twitter. Just mute. And then I have no idea what you're saying to me.
Right.
And we can just move on. And
so we laughed about
live.
this earlier. If Twitter was around in the 70s, some Twitter athletes today will go at you on Twitter and all this other stuff. Could you imagine like Jack Lambert blocking you on Twitter? I mean, it's hard to fathom.
I can only
that.
imagine him just crunching you into a department store window. You
or
know what
Lyle
I mean?
Alzado. I mean, somebody in him that would just would block you on Twitter. He would like, here's my address. Come meet me outside, and we'll figure this out mano a mano. That's all those great, awesome players in the 60s and 70s who would just beat you to a pulp.
Right.
Instead of blocking you on Twitter. And these guys now, I would have loved to have seen Twitter back in that time.
I didn't necessarily have Lyle Alzado on the Joe and Joe
Insane.
show bingo. Yeah, that's a good reference. Lyle Alzado as just a Twitter maniac.
I bring up Alzado because I remember one time
The late Lyle Alzado.
Late Lyle
Rest in
Alzado,
peace.
yes. He would at practice when he made a team. He was with the Broncos, and that like his first when he came to camp, he would like defensive lineman would fight the guy in front of him, would like beat the snot out of that guy, would never make a tackle. And finally, the coach said, "Hey, when you beat your guy, you got to go get the quarterback or find the ball.
You just keep beating him up.
This isn't wrestling. You cannot destroy. I want you to destroy the guy, but I also want you to go make a tackle and make a play." And that's another guy who passed away of stuff that he put into his body. I mean, it was some really crazy things he was doing
back in the day. Yeah, when, anabolic steroids, like old school. Yeah.
Yep.
Rough stuff. All right. Well, that segment was me dunking on Joe because Ace Fraley pronounces the name Ace Fraley. But when we come back, we'll have a guest who may be older than both of us, John Glennon, here on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Fourth and final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Joe Rexrode here with Big Joe Dubin of Main Street, Nashville. Michelle Knezovic, Robby Stanley right now. I mean, at this point, we're at 9 o'clock. I mean, I'm thinking, my gosh, Space Mountain may have been had a couple times. You know, one of those $17 like Mickey Mouse-shaped ice cream bars. I mean, who knows what kind of hijinks the Stanley family has gotten into. But we are excited now to bring in our good friend, John Glennon, Broadway Sports. Johnny, how are you?
I'm doing well, Joes. How are you guys?
We're doing well, and certainly we want to get to some Titans. We're doing well, although I don't know if you heard the last segment, John, and I don't know if you would have had this. I don't know if you were a big Kiss fan in the 70s, but how would you say Ace F's last name if you weren't listening?
I always we had some huge Kiss fans amongst our teen crowd. I was always under the impression Ace Frehley.
Yes.
Well, he's wrong.
Yes.
Well, you're excited that he's wrong like you?
But thank you, John. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's
I
Ace.
never heard what was the difference. I never heard a difference.
It's Ace Frehley. The dude put out a solo album in the 80s, and I'm not going to lie and say I've listened to 1 second of Ace Frehley's solo album, but the album was called Frehley's Comet. There's no way he's going to do it.
Are you sure it was?
Yes. I found him on an interview, and he said, I'm Ace Frehley, because he did an album called Frehley's Comet, because no one would do an album called Frehley's Comet. So you're all blocked.
Maybe that was a twist.
Yeah, whatever. I won my mints, and I win. So anyway, before we get into Titans, Johnny, I want to ask you about Floyd Reese. Obviously, terribly sad. It's been a rough few days since Floyd passed away at age 73 Saturday, and I know you went way back with Floyd. Just if someone says, "What is your best Floyd Reese story?" What immediately comes to mind?
To me, just to the personality of the guy, and from my standpoint, from a work standpoint, I would say accessibility, which was so great. I mean, I went back, as you say, to that first year that the Titans played in Memphis. And that was the first year that I covered this team. We were trying to, introduce, this team to Tennessee in general. And to have a general manager like Floyd Reese, who was so willing to talk, who was so willing to be informative, was a tremendous asset for me. I mean, this was back in the day when you could just call upstairs, really, in the Titans office, and maybe have to go through one secretary, and boom, Floyd Reese was on the phone, and he was willing to talk almost every day. Sometimes there were certainly plenty of times where Floyd Reese would just answer his own phone and give you the traditional hey Bo and chat you up. So I'm not sure any one particular story comes to mind for Floyd Reese. But just, in general, it was a guy that you not only respected for the job that he did, but the way that he handled people as well. Huge loss for Floyd Reese, and so sad the way, things unfolded too, that it just seemed to happen so quickly, and boy, big loss for an organization.
Yeah, and
I know John Robinson's pretty good with the media and all that stuff, but it was just a different time back then because Floyd would talk to you. He'd go out to training camp. He'd spend time talking to you. I mean, it was just – that's the kind of guy he was. I mean, he treated you like you remember the football team. It was weird.
Yeah, I guess it is weird to treat the media like that. But you're right. He was the kind of guy you'd walk up to him near the field. He'd shoot the breeze with you for a while. And you always felt he was so authentic too, that he just wasn't making surface talk and then trying to get rid of you, that kind of thing, which so many people do with the media these days, sadly. But just a solid guy, and as many people have pointed out, one of the most kind of endearing features I thought he had was that great laugh. That he had, he loved to tell stories. He loved to share stories of the past too, and that laugh just kind of, it sold that warmth in Floyd Reese as well.
Yeah, I agree. The laugh, I just feel like it was even a little bit better when it was at Jared's expense. I mean, it just, like it was just a little bit sweeter. But, Jared, I don't know if you got to hear any of it, Johnny, but Jared, the show they did at Stillman & Company yesterday was really outstanding. I mean, Nick Saban, Pete Carroll, some great guests, Mike Keith. I mean, it was, but the emotion and just the realness of that show was fantastic. But it's a loss, and I'm really glad that Floyd knew that he will be in the Ring of Honor before he passed away, and that'll obviously be a big moment this season. And I do want to transition to this season and to the Titans. We were out there yesterday. No Vrabel, more guys back on the field. Still no Julio Jones or A.J. Brown. So you have Adam Schefter, John, coming out yesterday, reporting knee injury with A.J. Brown. Of course, we know that last year he was dealing with that all year, had some kind of surgery after the fact, was looking just about as dominant as you can look early in camp, and now is not out there much. What's the concern level, you think, on – and we don't know. I don't know. Maybe you know exactly what Julio Jones is dealing with, but he's dealing with something. What's the concern level just on like those guys being fully what they are physically by the time the season starts?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting tweet by Adam Schefter, to be honest. Because I don't feel like anyone in our business or any Titans fans were really all that concerned about whether A.J. Brown would be ready for the season opener, just because he happened to miss a few practices. He'd been in and out of the practice lineup for a little bit there. But my speculation on this is that A.J. Brown is probably dealing with a flare up, something to do with those knees, as Adam Schefter reported. But he had the surgeries, last year, and early in camp, he looked tremendous. Was catching everything, was getting wide open, was dominant in those practices. So I do think it was something new that happened this year. Now, when I say new, I still think it's probably related to what it was last year, but certainly A.J. Brown was feeling great in the first part of camp. So something cut back his time, cut back his performance. I don't think, if he's still getting out there as he did yesterday just a little bit, I don't think there's a huge level of concern, for A.J. Brown in particular. But to me, the bigger picture, when are A.J. Brown and Julio Jones going to start getting some reps together with Ryan Tannehill? We all figured that the Titans' offense was going to be the great strength of this team going into the season, and it still likely will. But let's remember, you've got a new offensive coordinator. You've got Julio Jones, catching passes from a quarterback he hasn't caught from in his career, playing in a new system for the first time in his career. And then you throw in wide receiver 3, Josh Reynolds, who was limping around the field again yesterday, required medical attention. At some point, all these guys have to get on the field together, get some snaps together, get some reps, and get some chemistry in there. So hopefully, as far as the Titans are concerned, that'll start to happen here in the next couple of weeks before the season opener.
All right, talking to John Glennon. John, I go back to A.J. Brown's tweet at noon yesterday that says simply, after a while, people start making up stories. Do you think that's in direct shot at Schefter?
I would certainly think so. A.J. Brown never been shy to step forward on social media, as we say. And again, that goes back to what I said. I don't get the sense, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't get the sense that there was any great fear that A.J. Brown had suffered any kind of a significant injury and that he would be out for the season opener. Let's remember, this is a guy who basically played with those 2 knee injuries for almost all of last year.
Right.
So even at less than 100%, A.J. Brown made the Pro Bowl last year. So I don't think, that this is a huge concern. And, again, they've still got a few weeks before the season opener. So, if A.J. Brown isn't too concerned about it, he thinks people are making up stories, I'm more inclined to side with A.J. Brown given his track record.
I was going to say, with all that being said, the first game is the Cardinals, and I just wonder how much game planning now for the Cardinals that they're doing now that we're a couple of weeks out for this. Obviously, the team, Vrabel's not going to tell you anything. He never tells you anything anyway. But I'm just curious because, we talked about getting the guys in the game, getting them in rotation, seeing the chemistry and the camaraderie and all that stuff. I mean, do we need to see that Saturday night, John, or are we okay to wait till the first game?
Honestly, for the most part, I think it's more a case of waiting. As much as as I just said, you'd like to see the reps, and you'd like to see the chemistry, but there's such a fear, of getting players hurt, star players especially hurt, and that's understandable. You watched last night's game. Jacksonville, all of a sudden, Travis Etienne, plays a few snaps, he gets injured, nobody knows when he's going to be back, and that's a huge hit to the Jaguars. So. If Mike Vrabel, decides to roll out Derrick Henry for a few snaps to knock off the rust, and all of a sudden he, turns an ankle and he's out for weeks, nobody's going to forgive him. He's going to be, absolutely livid that he made a poor decision. So, to me, I still think, you sit those guys out for the most part. You sit the big names out. You're still going to have weeks. The preseason and training camp is set up a little bit different this year in that you've got those 2 weeks after that last preseason game now. So that's, to me, that's going to be key. That's when you really start needing Julio Jones out there, Josh Reynolds out there, and let's not forget the offensive line, too, the starting offensive line. Those guys have been missing in action for a lot of time due to injuries as well. So, again, chemistry, timing, etc. That's when we need to see those guys get together and start to get everything nailed down, ready for the season opener.
We sure A.J. Brown's tweet wasn't preemptively talking about your pronunciation of Ace Frehley? I'm just throwing it out there, man. I'm just throwing it out there.
You won this battle.
I'm just impressed that how many people know that Ace Frehley had a solo album? Was it? How did it go on the market? Did it sell well, or?
I'm sure some Kiss fanatics bought it, but John, you should see. I've never seen Joe Rexrode work harder than trying to prove me wrong about Ace Frehley. I've never seen.
Dude, you better start saying his name right, man. Like, this is getting out of hand. Well, someone on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, said, you've never heard Back in the New York Groove? Apparently that's a song off Frehley's comment. I don't know. No, I have not. Or if I have, I didn't know what it was. Hey, one more thing for
great song. I love the song. I thought that was Kiss, though. I didn't think that was Ace Frehley. I thought that was Kiss, but maybe.
I think you're right, John.
Is that actually a Kiss song? Okay, well, I don't know. We got a lot of things to sort out there. One more thing for you, John. And I don't actually. First of all, tell me if you know who gets credit, because someone tweeted this, and I haven't. No one has told me who gets credit. Someone tweeted Nashville hot fickin'. Look, I'll steal it, okay, if need be, but I'd like to know who deserves credit. Let me know on that. And also, the more important question is he the guy? Is he the kicker for this team in 21? Right now, you have to make the call.
On the first part, I think the first one I saw, Alan Ball, I thought had that tweet out there on the hot fickin'. I kind of still favor kicking fickin'. It's tough to go away from. They're both. I think they're both solid. But yeah, if I'm making the call right now, certainly it's got to be Sam Fickin. To me, he's been outstanding in the weeks he's been here. Made the 58-yard field goal. With room to spare, and I think what's also important too, we shouldn't overlook kickoff performance. I think that's an area that the Titans have suffered in from time to time over the years. They've had more kickoffs run out than they would like to see. So what did Fickin do Saturday night? I think 6 of 7 kicks went into the end zone.
Yep.
5 were touchbacks. The 2 that were run back were an average of about 16 yards each, which is great. So I think he has satisfied them both in terms of accuracy and in terms of power. So I think they can put down the Stephen Gostkowski bat phone for right now. I'd say Sam Fickin is the guy, and it's a brutal turn of events for Tucker McCann.
Oh, no doubt.
The guy goes out and has a great very good camp, and in that game against Atlanta, he's 3 for 3. He hits the 47-yarder. And boom, takes a bad injury because of a late hit, and all of a sudden the dream appears to be gone. But you know how the way kickers go in this league, I'm sure Tucker will get another shot somewhere.
Yep, it's a tough break for him, and Ficken is frickin' kicking. And
be careful. I sent a note to Jimmy Watt yesterday that autocorrect on Ficken. You got to be.
There's a lot of ways that can go. Yeah.
Because John, I remember one time you had a nice tweet about George Walker taking pictures, and it autocorrected shot to something else.
I said yes. I said George Walker was kneeling down to get just the right shot, or at least I tried to get shot on there, and didn't quite come out that way, unfortunately.
Well, maybe we can have some Twitter hijinks out there today. John Glenn and Broadway Sports, thanks for coming on. I'll see you out there. Bring your long sleeves and your insults for Paul Kaharski.
I will do it. All right.
See you, Johnny. And we will be back to react.
But we'll react. But also, there's a Titan player that I'm going to get him an endorsement deal. I'm going to make the case for it. There's a Titan player that needs an endorsement deal, all because of his name.
Love it. We'll have that for you next on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back, Robby or Rexrode. This sounds Kiss-like, and this sounds Kiss-like. Yeah? What was that, Michelle?
I was made for loving you.
Come on, you don't know that song?
I mean, honestly,
that's okay.
I'm not a big Kiss fan.
Okay.
I don't really think they were that good. Is that bad?
That's awful.
Okay.
That is awful.
Well, look, they're fine, okay? But, I mean, the 70s.
Right. Well,
You know, I'm going to put Zeppelin on, you know?
So
I'm going to listen to the Stones.
There was a thing back in the day when Gene Simmons would come on a radio show that if you asked about a Kiss he would leave the studio. It was known, don't ask him about Kiss. So all the cool radio DJs, hey, tell me about he'd get up and leave. He's like, I'm here to talk about what I'm doing.
So he didn't think they were very good either.
He didn't want to talk about it. He's like, when I'm in Kiss, we talk about Kiss. When I'm not in Kiss, we're not going to talk about Kiss.
Yeah.
But he's also a big IndyCar guy. So we did a thing with him back in 2008 and 9 at the National Super Speedway because Gene Simmons was the voice and couldn't have been any nicer. Stood next to him at the urinal. True story. And
Nice.
I look over, I'm like, that's...
Did you guys talk at the urinal?
No, I don't.
Okay, you didn't violate the don't talk code at the
Yes.
urinal? I mean, that'd be one reason to violate it.
Nope.
No?
No.
Like, hey, man.
Eyes straight ahead and walk outside and talk to Gene Simmons out there. Couldn't have been any nicer.
Like, hey, man, I know everybody made fun of Beth, but I thought it was a sweet rock ballad, dude. You could have said that at the urinal.
Now you've crossed the line. Do you not like Beth?
I like Beth. It's fine. They're fine.
What member of Kiss sang Beth?
I mean, it wasn't Paul.
It was not Paul.
Was it Ace Frehley?
It was not Ace Frehley.
Dude, stop saying his name wrong. Like we have verified. By the way, somebody on Twitter tweets out it's Top Dog who's some interview, an interview from 1979. Great. So some interviewer said Ace Frehley's name wrong. You're blocked, Top Dog. Although I haven't blocked you yet, obviously, or I wouldn't have seen that.
You got to let this Twitter world go. Your blood pressure's
I'm too much
up.
into it, aren't I?
Does Robby try to calm you down a little bit? I think so.
I think you're making me more fired up by saying Ace Frehley's name wrong. But Robby usually doesn't. When Robby gets a fact, then he'll go with it as the fact. You're refusing to accept it.
I am refused because it's Ace Frehley. Peter Criss sang Beth.
All right, Peter Criss. Yeah,
and he used to live in Madison way back in the day.
Is there a music like a musical artist or a musical group that doesn't have at least one person who either lives here or has lived here?
That's a great question. I mean, like Don Everly passed away.
Yeah.
Lived in Green Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd never know. I mean, the lead singer of Georgia Satellites, Dan Baird, I think it is, lives in Green Hills. I mean, there's all these people live. Why not live here?
Sure.
I mean, if you're a musician and you like
it.
music, you would live here. Anyway, Peter Criss sang Beth. All right, before we go to the break, there's a Titans player that needs an endorsement.
We
deal.
just got back. Are we going to the break already?
No, before we go. I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, I want to hear this endorsement.
All right, I don't know how to say his first name correctly, but his last name's Tart, right? Is it Tier?
Yeah, Tier Tart.
Tier Tart.
Yeah.
We've got some great bakeries in town. He needs an endorsement deal. So whether you're like Baked on 8th or whatever those places are called down in the cool areas of town that I'm not allowed into, why not get an endorsement deal with this guy?
Well,
who could promote your tarts.
No, I mean, I like it. I like it. Now, some people, all right, when he makes a play out during camp, you hear a little bit of Pop-Tart. People talking about Pop-Tart. So, I mean, you could go that'd be, big product, but I like it. I think you're right, like more gourmet bakery tarts.
So the commercial is they hand him a tart, you promote, hey, Rexrode's, baked goods, yada, yada, yada. You come back, and then somebody says, hey, how's the tart? And he says, I'm good. And that's that's a genuine laugh. Thank you. And then that's how the commercial ends.
Or top tier. He could say it's top tier.
Oh, my goodness. The top tier tart. The top tier tart.
We get 5%, Michelle, for that.
I mean, right here.
Joe gets nothing because he scoffed at our idea.
This is almost as good as Bowman Warner Overdrive. It's pretty good.
Nah, nothing's that good. So we're going to get Tier Tart an endorsement deal. So if you're listening out there, you've got a bakery, reach out to Mr. Tart.
Yeah. And the Tier Tart he's going to be on this team.
Yeah.
He is, in fact, I think, it's
depth chart, he's starting.
Depending on what they start in, he can be a starter. He's the third defensive lineman right now. I'd say Laurel Murchison right there, and he's a little bit banged up now, but Tart's been, he's a rookie last year undrafted. They needed some kind of help up front. He came on eventually, but boy, did he come back from this offseason in great shape. He's a player.
That's a John Robinson special.
Right.
A guy from Florida International. I mean, when he took Jonnu Smith, I was like, what? I remember him like, he's got some talent. You're going to see it. And I was like, well, he's got some talent. You did see it. So that's a John Robinson special right there. 6'2", 300.
And and just in really good. He's just way quicker, this year than he was last year. So I like it. The top tier tart.
Yeah.
Someone has got to offer this product.
Somebody's listening to a great audience somewhere around here, and that's how the commercial ends. How is it? How's the tart? And he's like, I'm good. And that's how it ends.
There you go.
I'd go right now. I'm going to go find this guy an endorsement deal.
I mean, I'd get a tart anyway. You know, like I like tarts.
When was the last time you ate a tart?
Nah, it's been a while.
I love Pop-Tarts. Best snack ever.
But that's a
Yeah,
Pop-Tart.
you think so?
But what's a tart?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've had tarts.
But what exactly is a tart?
I mean, it's basically like a non-mass-produced Pop-Tart. But it's more, the ones I've had more like, you know, like real fruit in them kind of thing, a little bit more.
Like a pastry?
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, that's what it is. So what's the best Pop-Tart flavor?
See, it's a close race between strawberry and
don't.
cinnamon. The cinnamon ones. But the
Cinnamon's
cinnamon
fantastic.
ones warmed in the microwave for about 10 seconds. That was like my middle school breakfast go-to every morning.
Strawberry is the most popular. I think blueberry and cherry are both way better than strawberry.
Cherry's
I know
not
it's
bad.
controversial.
But the brown sugar cinnamon's pretty solid with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't you
I'm
feed
not
your
a
kids
big fan.
Pop-Tarts?
We've bought Pop-Tarts.
You
They
said that.
ask for Pop-Tarts all the time. I usually make a nice, healthy
See?
spinach souffle in the morning.
That's nice. That's how I know
I
you're from
leave it
Williamson.
on the pan at 4:30 in the morning before I come over here.
That's how I know you're from Williamson County. You don't give your kids Pop-Tarts and you make that spinach souffle every morning. That's how I understand that.
Yes, very elite.
Before we go, do your kids eat breakfast in the morning? My son won't eat anything in the morning. Nothing. He will eat nothing.
It's a challenge, and a lot of times it's just like, I mean, it seriously, it's like take a bar. Just take a bar
Right.
and eat it. I mean, honestly, since doing this show, I don't know, man. I don't know what they do. See them at night. You know? I mean, I hope they
Hey,
do.
folks, I'm your dad.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good luck. Hey, do some chores. All right, when we come back on Robby and Rexrode, I have no idea what we'll talk about, but if you guys have any Pop-Tart thoughts on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. We'll be back on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back, Robby and Rexrode. Joe Rexrode, Big Joe Dubin of Main Street, Nashville. Michelle Knezovic, who you're spinning some jams out today, Michelle. Now,
it was his birthday yesterday, by the way.
Yeah. No, I know you know who it is.
Yep.
It's never mind. I was going to ask you like what soap opera he was on, but you know this.
Knots Landing. No, General Hospital, correct? Wasn't it right?
God, I was going to be so upset.
I mean, every girl was in love with that man.
Rick Springfield?
It was back in high school. It was Kevin Bacon because Footloose, and it was Rick Springfield. Rick Springfield. Every girl was in love with those two guys.
Yeah.
And I looked the farthest from either one of those guys. So you know how my life went.
I mean, I'm
time.
sure you had the flow going back then.
I had a lot of hair.
Yeah.
I had a lot of hair until about 2001 or 2. I used to have hair so long that it was down past my shoulders that when I shaved my head, my daughter, who was 4 at the time, did not recognize me.
Wow. Why'd you shave it?
It got to the point where the sun spot in the back of your scalp, it's called going bald. It looked
Thank you.
It looked really, really, really bad. So I'm going to shave it. So I've shaved it ever since. Said goodbye to you.
All right, we're going to you have a thought on the Ring of Honor. I just want to go through the text line by WilsonCounty.com real fast. Vincent from Dixon said that was Ace. So it actually wasn't a Kiss song. He said they all, I kind of remember that. They all released a solo album at like the same time. That was his. So that was so they all played it.
Correct.
But technically it was an Ace song.
Ace Frehley album.
Yeah. Now listen, we've got Nashville Hot Fickin', okay? Dennis texts me. Where the heck is he? Dennis texts me and says, I tweeted Hot Fickin' to Robby 2 weeks ago, and he's got receipts.
Ooh.
So Dennis on the text line is getting credit. As far as I know, Nashville Hot Fickin', Dennis on our text line. So if one of our listeners is the one who gets the credit, I think we need that's who needs to get the royalties. Fickin' makes the team. He goes on a hot streak, and we got Nashville Hot Fickin' T-shirts everywhere. I mean, Dennis better get a cut, man.
He's got receipts. That's
He's got
strong.
receipts. So I want if someone else has a receipt earlier than that, then let us see it. That was right around the time Fickin' joined the team. So nice job, Dennis. So Joe, you have a Titan or a former Titan who you believe
should be
in the Ring of Honor,
like today,
and is not in the Ring of Honor.
It is not. So I've got a beef with Hall of Fames. Like Del Murphy should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's not, which is an absolute and utter disgrace. Too Tall Jones should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's not. That's an absolute and utter disgrace. This is up there. It's not to an utter disgrace because there's still time to get him in there. But why do we never talk about Keith Bullock? Why is he? I mean, here's a guy who was from 2000, 2009, played his butt off for this team, and yet he's not spoken of in the terms of, I put him up there. Nah. I mean, this guy gave everything, has a Titan. He wasn't here for 3 or 4 years. I love Bruce Matthews, but he was only here 3 years. It wasn't his fault that the team moved in 97 over here. But Bullock should be on the Ring of Honor. And I'm going to say that every time that stuff's – and I'm glad Floyd's going up, and I'm glad Jeff Fisher's going up. But Keith Bullock needs to be the next guy to go on the player to go in the Ring of Honor. And nobody else. It's got to be Keith Bullock.
Well, I think Keith Bullock was a great player. We had him on yesterday talking about Floyd, and he was a great player. There's no doubt. And I think that, it's interesting because, some of these are very, very exclusive. I would say that Derek Mason on the other side of the ball has a similar case. Derek Mason was one of the best receivers in the NFL for several years.
Absolutely.
Here with the Titans. So I think both of those players are certainly worthy. I know sometimes, they just put Steve McNair and Eddie George like 2 years ago. So, would you agree that you would, if you're listing it in order, that McNair and George are before those guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go. I mean, so it is an exclusive group. But
the thing is, a lot of people are like, well, around the league. I don't care about around the league. I care about what happened here in Nashville for the Titans, and that guy was a hell of a player. I'll never forget when he got injured. I know he went and spent one year with the Giants in 2010, but that guy gave his heart and soul to this franchise for the 10 years that he was here. So I think he gets on there. But I think with the Derek Mason, he split Titans and Ravens, and I've heard, not from him, but other people have said, he is. If he went to the Hall of Fame, he'd go in as a Raven. I mean, that's That's a decision he's got to make. So
yeah, I mean, it was a tough ending, right, for
It
him
is.
here. And by the way, I'm inaccurate, so I mean, you should have smacked me right there. McNair and George 2 years ago that was the jersey retirement.
Jersey.
They went in the Ring of Honor,
2000
many years ago.
9.
Yeah. So I apologize for that.
And the jersey's something I don't get into the jersey retirement.
That's super. I mean, that's got to be. That's got to be, to me, a Hall of Famer or real close to it, which I think Eddie George, Steve McNair, both of them probably aren't going to get in, both very, very close.
Revered.
Certainly revered and just, pillars of the best team in franchise history. So you got, in that Ring of Honor, you got, obviously like Earl Campbell, and you got Warren Moon, Bruce Matthews, Evan Bethea, Blanda, Munchak, so look, I don't disagree with you. I think that Bullock and Derek Mason both should be there at some point. And look at current times. I mean, I would say recent great players who just maybe weren't quite here long enough or didn't quite have as much success would be like Delaney Walker, would be like Jarrell Casey. I think those guys just on the outside. I mean, I think right now we're watching a guy 22 who's going to be probably in just about any, if he stays healthy, if he keeps producing.
Correct.
Ring of Honor, jersey retired, Canton. I mean, I think all that stuff's on the table for him.
And there's a guy that played here. Had he stayed here after the 2008 season, had he stayed here, would have been a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. And you're going to laugh at me, and I don't care. Albert Hainsworth.
Oh, he was an incredible player.
What he
dominant
did
player.
With Jim Washburn and that 07-08 Titans defensive line with him, Tony Brown, Javon Curse, and Van den Bosch. I mean, I saw Hainsworth break the backs of so many, of Aaron Rodgers, of David Carr with the Panthers. I mean, went on and on and on and on. But he left. And when he left Washburn behind. Jim Washburn was an amazing coach, and I cannot repeat anything Jim Washburn said on the practice field because he liked to cuss. And I saw him make a pro player cry. I saw Jim Washburn make an NFL player cry on the field, and it was bizarre. But at the same time, those guys love Jim Washburn. So when Hainsworth went to Washington, he left behind Jim Washburn, and then he was never the same player after that. Not even close the same. But those years, if Albert would have stayed and done a couple more years at that level he would have been a surefire Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, it was for a stretch there, just about as dominant as it gets. So
how well do you know the Titans coaching staff there?
How well do I know the Titans coaching staff?
Can you tell me
are you giving me trivia?
Yeah. Do you know who the running back coach is?
Yeah, it's Tony Deuce.
Okay. Tight end coach?
It's Steckel.
Look at you. They got two guys on their page who don't have photos. Offensive skill assistant and offensive line assistant don't have pictures. Because you go down these teams and you look at like the Raiders. Tom Cable is one of their coaches. He's been around. I don't know if that guy retired 20 years ago. He's been around forever.
God, that is, yeah.
Is it not?
Well,
So
I mean, like Jim
guys.
Haslett here. I mean, Jim Haslett here, obviously, you're talking about a guy, a longtime head coach, pretty successful head coach, obviously a coordinator for a long time. There's probably about people around the league like, oh, Jim Haslett is a linebackers coach with the Titans?
Right.
Really?
Haslett, I was a big Saints fan for a while. Aaron Brooks ruined me on the Saints, and then Haslett was the coach during that time because he came in after Ditka, a big Ditka fan, and then he was awful in the 3 years he was down in New Orleans, and Haslett came in, and then Sean Payton took over after him. But it had Aaron Brooks, and I know he's a Virginia quarterback, and John Glennon probably thinks he's the best quarterback ever. But
right, yeah, Wahoos.
He kept ripping me apart with the quarterback there in New Orleans. But it's just you see all these different players who now are coaches, and it's kind of cool to see that. Rob Moore, receiver coach for the Titans, been here a while.
Well, look, and I think Rob Moore. I mean, obviously, a lot of coaches in the NFL are guys who played in the NFL. That's not necessarily the case. I would say most of them at least played at the college level somewhere, but a lot of them played in the NFL. But Rob Moore has, I mean, he's got a certain level of credibility because he was in this league producing for so long.
Yep.
I think he's one of those guys on this staff who, really, I think receivers are drawn even to, playing for him. I mean, you hear a lot of compliments from guys about Rob Moore. One thing I want to make clear before we go to break.
Sure.
That you should tune into Nashville Sounds baseball tonight. ESPN 94.9 as the Sounds begin a 6-game homestand at First Horizon Park against Gwinnett, AAA affiliate of the Atlanta Braves. Pre-game show with Jeff Hem starts at 6:50. First pitch, 7:05. Nashville Sounds Baseball presented by 321 Pizza Company and Farm Bureau Health Plans. And when we come back here on Robby and Rex Show, we'll wrap up this show with something just amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
You got it,
promise. That's your third mute
It's
problem.
a phone call from Ace Frehley.
Ace Frehley. We'll be right back. Final segment, Robby and Rexrode. Now, there's a jam, too. Michelle Knezovic, you were churning them out today.
I don't see you as a Kid
Little
Rock
Warren
guy,
Zevon right there. What's that?
That was Kid Rock.
That was Kid Rock, Joe.
Oh, I don't know. No, it was not. Oh, okay. I disavow myself from that song.
I was going to say I don't see you as a Kid Rock fan.
No, that was Warren Zevon, and so Kid Rock stole his song for his crappy. Okay.
He stole that in Sweet Home Alabama. They all do. They all steal things.
Yeah, I know.
All these guys.
Yeah, but some of them
sampling.
Well, sampling can be really creative and great. Beastie Boys' Paul's Boutique is probably one of the greatest works of art, and it's all sampling. because they make it into something cool.
My
Kid
favorite-
Rock taking someone else's song and then putting crappy lyrics over it is not the same
Well,
thing.
my favorite behind the music on VH1 was the Vanilla Ice when he got sued by Queen for Under Pressure.
He added that little.
And they've got this. He's sitting there. He's like, my song is and their song is So you can. And I was like, what the hell?
Dun,
did
dun,
I
dun.
just watch?
Yeah, dun 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 dun, and theirs is dun 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 dun. Yeah, he added a dun.
He did,
and that was enough. That was
I
enough.
was like, what's going on here? And so that started the whole we're going to sue your pants off.
Yeah,
And boom.
Well, right. Yeah, that's the thing. Before that, like Paul's Boutique. If you tried to make that album now, they had Beatles, they had jazz, they had anything you could ever think of. They had, they probably had Kiss on there. If you tried to make it today, it costs like $80 million to make the album because of the laws. But back then, you could sample whatever you want before that law came into effect,
Right.
and that's what hip hop was largely.
A jazz singer. He's in Nashville and Memphis. He's old, like in his 80s, and some band in Australia sampled some of his music, and his lawyer found out about it, and the guy ended up getting a couple $100,000 down the road. So there's no more sampling. You got to pay.
Yeah, you got to pay. Yeah,
but if you could sample a song and make yourself a star, and you make $10 million, I got to pay Michelle $5 million. Okay, I'll do it.
I'll take it.
Like Kid Rock. Yeah, Kid Rock paid Warren Zevon. And I wish Warren Zevon would have said no to take that awesome song, Werewolves in London. Great song by Warren Zevon.
It is.
Right? And then turn it into a crappy Kid Rock song. But that's okay. Warren Zevon got paid more for it, so I'm good with it.
You ever seen the interview?
Or is it Warren Zevon? Would you like to mispronounce his name too?
I know it's Zevon. You ever seen the Letterman interview with him before he died?
No.
It's fantastic.
Yeah?
Because they ask him, they talk about cancer, and he's like, evidently Letterman's like, you could have gone and get treatment, and you didn't. Why did he was like, look, man, when you find out you've got cancer, he goes, so many people stop living. He goes, I was not going to stop living, so I'm going to live up to the last second. It's on YouTube. It's a fantastic. It's when Letterman was at his best, where he went politically crazy. It was a very, very good personal interview.
Interesting. I will check that out. Yep. Today, Titans practice. They're going to have tomorrow off, so today we'll see. Is Craig Aukerman still kind of running things again? I think largely it's, hey, everybody, we're going to break for practice, and now, hey, everybody, it's lunchtime, and say a few words. For the most part, the coordinators run their stuff. Vrabel did mention Jim Schwartz and Jim Haslett as guys who have been head coaches. Jim Haslett coaches inside linebackers. Now, Jim Schwartz is interesting. You could make the case, hey, why not step in there and just be the interim head coach because he's really just kind of an analyst and he's helping out. But he's been very, very, I think, understated. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we'll see that. I think we'll see probably Aukerman do that. I'm looking today to see, it was big for the Titans to me. The biggest positive element was the offensive linemen who came back, Ben Jones, Nate Davis, Kendall Lamb. They had a lot of those guys out there. They weren't doing everything, but they were out there. That's a big, positive step. And again, if they get enough of that offensive line and they feel good about them playing, I could make a better case for Tannehill to have a couple series Saturday night. But my guess is we probably won't see many of them.
Because how much reps is Matt Barkley going to get throughout the season? Real quick, I'll look up Jim Schwartz on TitansOnline.com. They have him in an Eagles shirt.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that picture, because I've seen that picture.
He's got an Eagles shirt on. Jim Schwartz has an Eagles shirt on.
Huh.
Do I send Jim?
So does this mean, Jim Schwartz is like, you know what? I'll come, but I'm not taking a new picture. I'm not taking a new picture. Just use my old picture.
Good. Yeah, what I got's good.
Yeah, come on. Now, they could have maybe cropped a little tighter, like cropped the...
You see, am I right? Am I seeing the Eagles thing there? There it is.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Also, fun fact about Jim Schwartz, he played college football with that comedian Jim Gaffigan.
Is that right? Jim Gaffigan's hilarious.
He is.
Yeah, that's absolutely a nice green collar with an Eagles logo. Like either crop it tighter or take a new freaking picture, right?
It's not. Jim's a nice guy. I've known him. He's a great guy, and just go
whatever.
ahead.
He's Jim Schwartz. He do whatever he wants to do.
He is.
It's like I'm going to wear my Eagles stuff all the time now.
And do it today and put it on. You remember Jim from the Lions?
Oh, boy, do I ever. That, the one that comes to mind, of course, is when the 49ers actually, funny to say, upset the Lions in Detroit. And, man, did he want to beat Harbaugh.
Is that the handshake?
Yes. Harbaugh came in, slapped his hand and ran. And, Jim Schwartz wanted to kill him. So.
That's great.
I never thought he was a bad coach. Again, it's hard to judge anyone harshly who works for that crap organization,
They made one playoff game? Is that the one where they played the Saints?
They've won. Oh, when he was there?
Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah, and actually Stafford was great in that game, but Drew Brees could have thrown for 800 yards if you let him.
Right.
But they've won one playoff game since the 1957 championship over the Browns, which was a great moment in a young sports fan's life when Barry Sanders and the Lions ran all over the Dallas Cowboys with Aikman and Emmett and Michael and Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson 38-6.
91.
And at that point, it was like, the up-and-coming team here in the 90s, the Detroit Lions. And then we saw what happened.
That's the last one they won?
Oh, yeah.
Holy
It's
cow.
the one that they've won since 57. So if you want to talk about dysfunctional, bad
so why do we
organizations
put the
in
Browns
sports,
down? We should be putting the Lions down for all that.
I put them down all the time on this show. I mean, Michelle can attest. I mean, you haven't even been here that long, Michelle. How much do I rip the Lions? Every chance I get.
That's amazing. I had no idea. And then they go the next week and get beat by the Redskins, who end up winning.
Right, and that was
Bowl.
Mark Rippon and Darryl Green. I mean, that was a loaded – that was a really – because they crushed the Bills in the Super Bowl. There you go. That's the Lions fight song.
Oh, is it?
Down the field and gain a Lions victory.
Is that the true story, though, about how the NFL wanted to move the Thanksgiving Day game away from Detroit, and the Ford family said,
we suck.
We're going to take our advertising and go elsewhere. Is that true?
Well, I'm not sure about that, but someone said it was like some kind of advantage, and they're like we're sub 500 on Thanksgiving. Leave us alone. But I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I can't believe you don't know Paul Newmoff. That hurts my heart.
I'm going to look him up tonight.
I played. His son was my suite mate. We played football together. And Paul was an All-American at UT. He passed away 2 years ago, Alzheimer's, awful disease.
That's too bad.
But he loved the Lions. He loved the Lions. Played there forever.
Okay.
We got to get you on this Lions.
I will look him up. I apologize. I mean, sometimes the massive age gap between us is just going to come into play in a show.
I know. You'll be 31 day. You met Eric Hipple. That's one of the hardest hits. You ever remember that hit?
Oh, the hit from when they played the Bucks. Oh my God! And there was no penalty. They're like, oh yeah, all right. Is he okay? Smelling salts. Get him back out there. Yeah.
They knocked his helmet off, and he had no idea where he was. And that was one of the most vicious. It was I don't say a clean out, but they just knocked him out, and he stood back up, and he had no idea where he was.
Yeah. All right, we got 4 more hours of this tomorrow, so you're coming with Choice is Yours. We will have a ton more fun tomorrow, and Darren Dawg Chase is next here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. This has been Robby and Rexrode.